So we got this viral clip from reporter Alad Eliyahu. We're at a Pride event. They're chanting, "We're coming for your children." And this story is going massively viral, even being carried by the corporate press, which is surprising to me. I think it's because regular people are sick and tired of the extreme behavior we've been seeing creeping into the mainstream as it pertains to Pride events. The Bud Light effect has become very real for every major corporation in two ways. The first, you're going to lose money if you embrace this stuff because it's gone too far. And the second, you're going to make money if you cover the stories and make videos about it. We talked about this early on. I said a lot of creators, a lot of influence, a lot of people who make videos or whatever are going to start jumping on this because they can clearly see there's a path to virality in covering these stories and talking about it, addressing the issue. And now seeing the corporate press actually address it, surprising to me, to be completely honest. But we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about this clip that's gone viral from the Culture War podcast from last week, where our guest from the Majority Report explicitly defended she believed that children of 10 years old should be using Grindr. And we have to discuss the morality behind that. The question being, do these leftists actually believe children should be equipped to engage in illegal activity or should become victims of adult predators? Or are they just saying whatever they think the left wants them to say, in which case they're driving themselves off a cliff? We'll talk about that and a whole bunch more. We got a bunch of crazy stories. They want to impeach Mayor Garland. There's a new report about the Biden administration colluding with big tech to censor people. We kind of know all of that stuff, so we'll talk about those issues and what's going on in the culture wars that pertains to Get Woke, Go Broke, Disney losing $900 million with all of their with several of their last releases. Because, yeah, I think we're winning this one. I think regular people have had enough and are just saying, yo, I'm sick of how crazy things have gotten. Before we get into all of that, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and pick up Cast Brew Coffee. This is our coffee company. Not only will it be the greatest cup of coffee you've ever had, it will be the only, well, I shouldn't say only, but it'll be one of the best cups of coffee helping you fight communism. That's right. We sponsor ourselves. So when you buy Cast Brew, you're helping support this show, the work that we do, and we're building a parallel economy. The coffee shop is currently under construction. Every time we start working on a new part of the building, we get an update. This is asbestos. It's got to be cleared out, all that crazy stuff. And it's a historic building, so it's taking forever. But this is the ultimate goal, to create real-world physical locations that people can hang out at, get exposed to content like ours and, say, Steven Crowder and Viva and Barnes, etc., to see those videos when they're buying their coffee so that we can get a foothold in the center of suburban spaces and urban spaces. And with your support by buying Cast Brew Coffee, we will get there. Also, don't forget to go to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member, because we're going to have a members-only show coming up for you tonight, just after the show wraps around 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it. And you can also download the mobile app by clicking mobile app. It's available currently for Android. The Android and Apple apps are currently done, but the app stores haven't allowed the app in just yet. So you can directly download the Android app to your phone on our website. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Terry Schilling.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. This is a really exciting topic for me. This is all I do is talk about how the left is trying to groom our children sexually and in many other ways. So perfect night to come on and talk about everything I've learned over the past few years.
Well, right on. What is it you do? Do you work for an organization?
Yeah, so I'm the president of a group called American Principles Project, and we brand ourselves as Big Family, right? So like everyone in D.C. has a special interest group. There's Big Pharma, Big Oil, Big Tobacco. We're Big Family. We make politicians pay a price when they hurt our kids or indoctrinate our kids in schools. We give parents a voice in politics, and we think that politics is a really important thing, and it actually can drive the culture. And when you change the law, you can change the culture. And so we operate from a very simple premise.
Right on. We got Phil Labonte hanging out as well.
How you doing? I am Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains, anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. It's good to be back. What's up, Ian?
Oh, well, so many things, Phil. Let's talk about it tonight on this beautiful Monday night. Ian Crossland coming at you live, everybody. What's happening, Serge?
Yo, sorry about the audio, guys. The reason there is a buzz because we have 2 window units running right now, and there's not really much I can do. Otherwise, I would die of heat exhaustion. So, Serge.com. What's up?
Our AC broke. So we have 2 portable units and a fan running, and it is still like 80 degrees in here. So
it's still so hot. Good. It sucks, but so you know.
I love it.
We'll be getting sweaty in the room.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we'll figure it out in due time. But so shall we get on with the news?
Let's do it.
All right, the first story we got is from Timcast.com. New York City drag march participants chant, "We're coming for your children." Actually, I don't think I can show the video because they're nude. So I have to turn on the blur here.
That's cool
And
feature.
then, yeah. And then let's see if I boot it up, is it gonna blur? It's not. So let's refresh and see if it worked now. Okay, there we go. Now it's going to Okay, so they chant, "We're not going shopping" afterwards. The fact that they all know the change, like they know what this chant is, it was planned in advance. They're saying, "We're coming for your children." Here's where it gets interesting. This is, I think now I can remove the blur. This is ABC7. "We're coming for your children." Video of NYC drag march parade stirs outright show. Even the corporate press is covering this. Podcaster Tim Pool shared a video of the event. I mean, technically I did. It was Timcast News, filmed by Alad Eliyahu. Several outlets, including the Daily Mail and Newsweek, have reported the videos from New York City's Pride weekend. People can be seen in the video walking through a park wearing colorful apparel, some dressed in drag and others topless, and they're chanting that they're coming for our children. At a certain point, it's not a joke. That video came out a while ago from the San Francisco Gay Men's Choir singing, "We're coming for your children." And people were like, "Hey, that's alarming." And what did the media say? "It's a joke. They're being silly." And no, they're not joking.
No, they're not.
They actually mean it. There are numerous videos going around right now that I can't show on YouTube. One of them depicts a man in tidy whities spreading his legs and cheeks in front of children and then gyrating and thrusting himself at the kids. I can't show you that video. I mean, it's hard enough to describe on a show like this. Twitter is censoring these videos. If you try to retweet it, they're getting suppressed. People aren't seeing the posts. And then the videos themselves, it says this tweet is unavailable. And this is the scary thing about censorship. I understand you want to censor this so that kids don't see it. You put a sensitive filter on it. You don't make it impossible for people to see. Because the fact that people can't see this is what's prolonging it. So when you go to someone and tell them this is what they're doing, this is what the left has been doing, they're grooming kids, they say, "Prove it." You try to find the video's gone. Because Twitter is censoring it out of a fear that advertisers will flee the platform.
No, that's exactly right. The left's, the transgender movement, the left's best argument for the past decade or so when it comes to our kids has been, it isn't happening, right? Just a straight up denial that there's anything going on with kids. And that's all started to change ever since everyone has a TikTok channel. Everyone has a YouTube channel. And because these kids are bragging about it. They're bragging about getting double mastectomies. And we're seeing this stuff in our kids' schools. COVID was awesome silver lining to expose parents to what their kids are experiencing. But no, that's exactly right, Tim. We have to be able to talk about this stuff, and we can't protect. It's already out there. I mean, they're doing this on the Pride Parades. The Pride Parades have been out of control for at least the last decade, right? Like, this is not new. I've been to Pride Parades. They always have weird, nude, crazy stuff going on. The leather, they've had the puppy guys, out there. There's always been a level of weirdness to this. And at the center of it, right? Trans rights, you have it. Like, they have special privileges now, right? Like, I'm not able to go into the streets and dance naked in a St. Patrick's Day parade.
But that's pride in general. That's always been that way. I mean, we've talked about it. When I was a kid, you'd go to a pride parade and they would be doing gratuitous things. They'd be naked. So more specifically, when I was a kid, my mom did not let me go outside during Pride because we had a cafe on North Halsted in Chicago. The Pride Parade would come and she'd say, "Go inside and don't come outside," because of the things they were doing. When I was maybe 6-7 years ago in LA, people I knew in LA were like, "Oh yeah, when Pride comes around, they were talking about how they all got naked and would run around fully nude." And it's like, I'm like, "Isn't that illegal?" And they're like, "Nobody cares." It's like, okay, well, look, if the people in the cities don't care,
does
fine.
No one care? I mean, the thing is, maybe they haven't been vocal. Maybe they have been kind of like worried about what their neighbors would say or whatever because of the tone nowadays. But I really find it hard to believe that people don't care. I think people were afraid to say something because of the fact that they felt like they were going to be ostracized, when in reality, they probably were still the quiet majority. Most people don't want their children to be exposed to kink in the streets of a major city. And I think that the stuff with Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney finally gave your average person the courage to stand up and say, hold on, I don't really approve of this. I want to see a little more modesty in public. No one's talking about going into your bedroom and deciding who you can sleep with or can't sleep with, or at least the average person. I'm sure there are some religious people that want to get into the business of what is going on in your bedroom, but the average person that is just kind of living their life and doesn't really pay a lot of attention to politics, they don't want their kids exposed to nude men in the streets.
What about like a dude in a diaper with a dog helmet on?
You know what?
Real talk.
I bet you the average guy, the welder that welds in South Dakota, he probably wants his kids to be exposed to a guy in a diaper with a dog mask. You're probably right.
Like a guy can go shirtless in tight shorts any day of the week, walk down the street. He can put on a dog mask. He can walk down the street. But like if he puts on a strap, fake strap on it or whatever, now it's becoming sexualized.
Fake one.
Technically, or a real one. But how is wearing a diaper as your only thing not sexual for an adult anyway? It's weird.
It's all sexual, and it's all kink, though. That's the part of the thing is that Tim's talked about before is this isn't about actually being proud of your sexuality. It's about exhibitionism, narcissism, and kink.
And I also think, though, that it makes sense, right? This is a movement built on pride, and that pride has now turned into hubris, to where they're pushing transgender bathing suits for little kids at Target, and they didn't think there was going to be a consequence. They what?
Those were adult bathing suits.
No. They expose that it was for little kids?
No, those were adult bathing suits.
So,
but they did have kids clothing and onesies that said Pride and things like that. The tuck friendly bathing suit was an adult bathing suit.
Okay, so the thing is, though, regardless if Target did that, right? There's still
real
trans
quick.
kid stuff.
Sorry, real quick. The funny thing is that was the defense we got from the corporate press. They're like, no. That section where they're selling the kids clothing that has all the stuff on it. The bathing for tucking was for the adults in the same section. And it's okay.
I'm glad you brought up hubris, man. Pride is on my mind a lot, and how it's a Catholic sin, but an American virtue. And I think this whole "we're coming for you" rhetoric is hubristic. Who do you think you are to coexist with me and threaten that you're going to come for my children?
It's a celebration of a conquered religion. Every year when Pride goes out and when they are out there in the street celebrating, they're celebrating they're celebrating their victory over Christianity. And I'm an agnostic. I'm not the guy that's going to sit there and say...
That's a little too explicit for me.
You think?
I don't think it's over Christianity. I think it's just... We refer to wokeness as a non-theistic religion, but it's amorphous. It is boundaryless, borderless. It is just... It's more of a celebration of likeness. These are people who are going out and being like, we have a social group. That's all they're saying. There's no logic, there's no rules, there's no morals. As long as you agree to adhere to the group, you're good. If you deviate in any way, you're bad. They're not celebrating a deity, they're not celebrating an ideology. They're celebrating an amalgam of various social theories and aspects mashed together, which often contradict each other.
I don't disagree with you in that point, but I do think that they're celebrating a victory over what is considered normal, or what has been considered normal.
Absolutely. But Christianity, look, if you go to these events, they'll tell you they don't like Christianity, but they couldn't tell you anything about it. And it's not on their minds.
Yeah, it's the Christianity that Jon Stewart told them is out there, and because that's where they get there.
They're not going out there because of Christianity. They don't like it. But they do like Islam. Seriously. Not all of them, but a lot of them do.
Until they find out how Islam feels about them.
Nope. They still like it.
No, they'll move on. Just like they will move on. The dialectic will continue, because as soon as Islam becomes the conservative in their eyes, then they will move on. Just like they do to gay men. How gay men aren't. You're not queer enough if you're a gay white male. You're not queer enough, and you get left behind. That's what happened to people like Milo and. But Brenda. I think Brenda Strick is gay, man, and people
It's been years since we've seen Islam, Muslims protesting LGBTQ stuff, and they're still very much oh, it's fine. It is starting to change, though. There was up in Michigan, that suburb.
Dearborn.
Yeah.
It wasn't in Dearborn. It was a town near Detroit, not necessarily Dearborn, but probably close enough suburb, where they said no pride flags on public display. And they said, because we don't put anyone's flags on public display. We only do the American flag or the flags of nations. And then they got mad about it. I saw in the UK, government buildings are flying the Progress Pride flag. In the US, this is a flag. It's a symbol of a global. It's a global takeover. It is a non-theistic religion. It is a global cult. The fact that foreign countries are flying this flag says a lot. The fact that U.S. embassies fly the flag says a lot. It is creepy, and it should not be allowed. So I don't know if we'll get anyone in Congress to be like, hey, you can't fly flags like this, on government buildings. But they're doing it anyway. I can't speak for these other countries, but it is creepy. And I wonder, when I see that, I'm like, is that the flag of like the one world government? You know what I mean? Like, not literally in the sense of a one world government, but is that the flag of the cross borders internationalist ethos?
It's at least the flag for the activists that will get us to a one world government, right? Like they'll have something else more generic that appeals to more people. But I like that idea of passing laws that say that in government buildings you can only fly government flags, right? Like the American. Why is it, like, what is their argument against the American flag being the flag that
they hate America?
I understand that, but like if you're on TV, right? So like the professionals, what do they say? Because the American flag really does represent everyone, gay, straight, trans, whatever, whether you like it or not, it represents America. So like, why don't they just fly the American flag? Like if I was
because
an LGBT,
they hate liberalism.
Yeah, they hate liberalism. They hate America.
It repulses them.
Yes,
but I wouldn't want to baptize
that's why they
that
steal
flag,
and burn
right?
the flag. And here's the crazy thing too. There was a video I saw out of France where during their Pride March, someone climbed up to a second floor balcony and ripped down the French flag. It's not just America. It is all these countries having some kind of weird shared internet cult. And they're bubbling up in a bunch of different countries.
The patriarchy. They want to smash the patriarchy.
Sure.
The white privilege, I think, is what it stands for.
They are the
Being on
patriarchy
time.
times 10.
Like, remember that?
Literally, wokeness is hardcore patriarchy.
Yeah.
Like the advocacy against the rights of women is
It's crazy. It's racist too. It splits up little
right.
kids and tells them their skin color means something, and like people become racist, and they're like, so counterproductive. It's wild that humans think that this is something that can function.
In this context, and I know we did talk about this on Friday, but I do want to bring it up now. We have this clip from the Culture War podcast where I was having a conversation with Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report co-host, and considering what we saw with this Pride event, I want to play this clip and discuss it more in depth. So I'm going to play it for you now. Here we go. You're the one arguing for.
You're the one arguing for censorship.
Yes.
I mean, I don't really mind that stuff. I mean, are you in favor of children seeing violence on television?
No.
That scares me a little bit more.
It depends. It's not so simple to say violence, right? But yes, censorship is a good thing, but when done bad is a bad thing.
Yeah.
For instance, Ian Crossland, who is a co-host on Timcast IRL, used to be a moderator for Minds.com, and he had to filter out graphic depictions of murder and rape and child abuse. Censorship is absolutely vital in that regard. So if we're talking about a book like, in particular, there was one called, there's a teacher who provided a book to her middle schoolers called This Book is Gay. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have heard. That's actually a very good book.
And it provides instruction on children. She provided instruction to children on how to use adult gay anonymous sex apps. Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate. Now, look, by all means, you can be in favor of them.
Maybe she had a child. Maybe she had a child in her classroom
who wanted to go on Grindr and have sex with adults. Is that your argument?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that. First of all, I don't know. Again, this is
another. Why would a 10-year-old need Grindr?
This is the thing that you do, though, Tim.
Oh, that
You're picking specific examples that are inflammatory.
You asked me for one.
Okay, then go ahead. I
did. We have the book.
Yeah, I'm.
I said, don't show children blowjobs.
Look,
you said you appreciate it.
I'm not in favor of censorship.
This Book is Gay is a book that teaches the individual reading it how to use adult sex apps. And holy crap, there are things described in that book that, look, I can't even describe.
I'm buying it.
I can't even, bro. We
got to have it on the table.
Oh, you're buying the book. Yeah. Right. I don't disagree with that. I don't like giving these people money, but I think it's important to know and for people to read this stuff. But the book describes things that go well beyond sex and kink into what I would describe as dangerous behavior that can result in serious. Look, when they talk about consuming feces, and it goes beyond that.
Wow.
I'm like, you're talking about things that can cause serious harm to a person, let alone a child. When she says it's a great book and defends the idea that children would get it, I have to wonder. I almost don't have to wonder. It's a question of, do we really think these people just don't know what they're talking about? Or does she actually, does Emma actually want children to have sex with adults?
Emma had one thing on her mind when she came in here, and that was disagree with Tim Pool. There was not any brain function going on. She was just, what does Tim Pool say? Challenge it. Because the whole thing,
dude, but
she's an idiot.
No,
maybe, but that's giving them the benefit of the doubt when they're trying to get kids on Grindr.
No, how progressives view all of this, right? Like the patriarchy, they want to tear all that down, but they want to progress beyond all institutions, barriers. They think that laws that protect children from sex is actually hurting them.
So,
right? It's causing them harm. Like that's what the academics and ideologues of progressivism believe.
Yes, Emma is not that. Emma is not she's like, her head is so empty. And that, like, the whole point of her coming here was to get something that, and the same thing goes for like the whole Minority Report or whatever.
Majority Report.
They're just looking to dunk on Tim Pool. She came here hoping to get some kind of way to dunk on Tim Pool. So now you're right. There are people that know theory and actually believe it's good to have intergenerational relationships. People like Herbert Marcuse and Gail Rubin, I think is her name, and the people that write queer theory books. You're totally right. Emma's not one of them. Emma is a useful idiot. That's why she was like screaming about supporting trans women in women's sports, because even if it hurts some of the competitors.
You're saying Emma Vigeland's advocacy for pedophilia isn't that she herself is a pedophile, but that she stands opposed to like institutions, laws, and
anything on the right, anything that comes out of your mouth, she's going to oppose. She had no idea.
I will say this: the reason why I can agree with that is, for one, I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I think they know exactly what they're talking about. But for her, maybe she did this thing where she, after the show, she claimed she wasn't cool enough to see the skate park. It's the weirdest thing in the world because I said earlier, maybe when she pulled up and parked, she didn't notice she was in a skate park because the front of the property is the skate park.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe they pulled up into the far space and just walked right in the green room door and she didn't notice because she didn't look anywhere. Then I found out from staff, she was actually right in the middle of it. She was standing in the middle of the skate park. There's ramps everywhere. There's rails and ledges. You can see everything. There's like a big speaker for music. And then she called and said, I didn't get to see the skate park. And I'm like, that's a really weird thing to lie about.
You will literally trip over the grinding rail that is right at the front of the house if you're not careful. You will fall over that.
She was talking about the other skate park, the downstairs one. So, that's what I think it was anyway.
There's like five here.
Dude, the downstairs is a mini ramp, not a skate park. The skate park is the barn, and there's a massive 24-foot long vert wall. It's an 8-foot vert. 8-foot wide vert, and then there's a 20-foot or a 16-foot 4-foot section. You park right in front of it, and you're surrounded by ramps. It's a weird thing to lie about. She could have said, "Well, I did get to see the skate park. I didn't get to see their ramp, though."
I could see how it might not look like a skate park because there's a bunch of cars parked all around it because it's a parking lot as well. It doubles as a parking lot,
dude,
so she might not have realized she was in one.
You're so kind.
Yeah, she literally. So she was offered a tour, sushi, and poker with the boys. When the show wrapped, I said, "We're all gonna hang out. We have sushi that's here, bubble tea, cheeseburgers. We put on some music. We at the table. We play a micro stakes poker game, basically poker for fun, not for money. And we can show you around." She goes, "No, I can't. I've got to run." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Thanks for coming." And what does she do? They wouldn't show me anything.
Well, she called Sam, and they were joking. I mean, she's pretty clear. Like, Tim, this is like high school drama. But I think
it was so that way. But wait, hold on. It wasn't. It was so that way she could slime the people here.
Yeah, I think-
it wasn't like a ha Tim. It wasn't a good natured joke. It wasn't because she wanted to be humorous and be fun. It was a way to slime Tim and her experience here, even though Tim was polite, kind, and
This
nice
is exactly
the
what
entire
Sam
time.
Cedar did.
Exactly.
When
Why
we,
you didn't
when
want
we,
to have Sam-
when we
yeah.
invited him on the show, I said, I know exactly what he's going to do. It's low tier WWE political garbage. And if I invite him on the show, they do this thing where all of a sudden, abruptly, they'll say something in a non sequitur, and you're confused by what they're saying because she had it on her computer. My understanding is that she was being told what to say.
Oh,
So,
really?
In the middle of the conversation, well, she had a list of things like written
Goes
out.
to
I
your
guess.
point that she's like just vacuous.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
That's
no,
an
no,
assumption,
she-
man. She's a journalist. She reads like 50 pages a day before she
Journalists.
works. Yeah.
Look at what happened with Steven Crowder and Sam Cedar, right? Steven Crowder was going to have a conversation with Ethan Klein, and then Sam barges in and then starts just clucking like a chicken, like just bok nonsense, because it's WWE to them. So I'm like, we can have her on the show. And I said it would be with another person to discuss ideas. So we got Sean Fitzgerald, and what does she do? Before the show, we were like, hey, let's open with crime and talk about Jordan Williams, this guy in New York who's, he was a black guy. People are saying he's not getting the same support as Penny because he's black. And she goes, yeah, of course, absolutely. As soon as the show starts, what does she do? E-drama, WWE garbage.
I think Majority Report primarily is like a comedy show / it's more like the Daily Show. Like let me finish, please. And whereas this show's more serious, and I think they both, Sam and Emma, get a kick out of making you upset. Like it's just part of like the pushing your friends around when you're little.
This is not. No. I'm stopping you. I'm sorry. This is not me being like, oh, I can't believe I got dunked on it. This is Emma advocating for pedophilia.
No, it's not. You cut her off at 1:05. I was watching this clip. I watched the show live. You cut her off at 1:05 in the clip and didn't let her talk about what she said. Maybe the teacher has a student in her class. And you cut her off. And that was the end of it. She couldn't explain herself.
Watch the full episode.
I did. I watched it once.
Yeah, no, she goes into greater detail. We talked for like 20 minutes about how she was like, she explicitly said she did not care if 10-year-olds were shown blowjobs.
I think she's out of line.
She's not.
I think you need censorship for stuff like that. That's an argument I'll have.
They're having a show where they advocate for pedophilia at a time where they're chanting, "We're coming for your children," and they produced a 50-person chorus called "We're coming for your children." Ian, take the blinders off, man.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think there's blindness in people's brains where they think that things have happened so slowly as they're introducing sexuality to children, 9-year-olds seeing porn and things, that now people are like, why do censorship is the bad guy. We don't need, just let things happen naturally. And like, dude, it's our duty and responsibility to create a moral system. If we don't stay on it every day, it's going to go haywire.
When has the left ever been against censorship? For her to be like, I oppose censorship, it's like, oh, please. They complain that someone says a naughty word on the internet and they want them all banned. Then when it comes to the issue of pedophilia, she's like, I'm not even gonna quote her. When it comes to the issue of pedophilia and a teacher trying to get her students of 10 years old to use Grindr, she defends it. You know what she could have said? She could have said, okay, like, yes, that's bad, but here's what I'm saying. She didn't say that. Dude, for 2.5 hours we talk, or like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and she's in every respect defending that they're doing these things. In every respect. And then it got to the point where I was like, I don't understand. And it's probably like Phil said, whatever it is we agree on, no matter what, they oppose, no matter what. So I'm like, why? I was like, isn't it in your interest to have Joe Biden like out to get somebody else? So when we come out and we're like, hey, here's evidence Joe Biden's corrupt, shouldn't you just be like, oh? And she's like, no, it's not true. And I'm like, wait, what? No, it is true.
Reactionaryism, you got to watch out for that stuff. Anyone that's willing to refute what you say because they don't like you that's a big problem.
That's what the left is right now.
A lot of people on a lot of sides can fall into that.
And I've been explaining this for a while. The left, as we describe it, is a reactionary movement. What does that mean? Reactionary doesn't mean you react to something. It is a specific reference to those who are trying to bring back or preserve the old ways. That is what the left is doing. When they're not about progress. This is a lie. When you get Ibram Kendi coming out and saying the only solution to past discrimination, et cetera, when he's basically advocating for future discrimination, Derek Bell, I think I'm hoping I'm not getting his name wrong. They're advocating for returning to Plessy v. Ferguson. They want to bring back the old before the civil rights movement. They are reactionaries who are upset we had a civil libertarian revolution in this country that brought about individual rights. They are collectivists. They hate that we've enshrined in our Constitution individual rights, and they want to turn back the clock to get rid of that. They're reactionaries. Now, you're right. As for Emma, maybe it is fair to say, no matter what it is you advocate for, she will be against. If I say, hey, look, here's evidence Joe Biden's corrupt, she goes, nuh-uh. I'm like, but you hate Joe Biden.
It's personal, Tim. It was all about, like, it was personal about you. Anybody that was here obviously would have been a representative of Timcast, but, like, the whole thing was they want clips. They were hoping to get clips, but Emma was just incapable of producing something that would be compelling for them, other than, oh, he didn't show me his skate park.
I wonder if they feel... I kind of felt like Emma felt a little bit of shame, because I know that the thing she said about neo-Nazis she was told to say, probably by Sam. And afterwards, when the show wrapped, and she steps out of the room for a bit, we are all talking about it, about this is the issue with the Majority Report. Sam Cedar is blacklisted from a bunch of big networks and podcasts. Yeah. He got fired from MSNBC, I think. And this is explicitly why. As has been iterated to me by a lot of people, that he's an unserious person who just tries to gamify people for bad faith politics. And then, as she's walking back in the room, Sean was like, oh, the neo-Nazi thing is like out of line. It's like, it's not a real debate. It's not a real political argument. It's just an intentionally destructive to the political space. Yeah. And then she is looking down. She wouldn't look us in the eyes at all the whole time.
I wonder, she had made a big stink about the amount of money that they don't make, and didn't want to admit that it's because there's not really an audience for it, or not the same kind of audience. She did mention, like you'd said earlier, one of the things that I wanted to push back on, she said over and over that she was covering serious political topics and et cetera. And I think that all of the Majority Report, and her in particular, but I would assume the feeling is shared with most of the people over there, is just massive jealousy. They don't get invited up to Capitol Hill. They're not streaming their show from Congress, from congressional people's offices. They don't have the same kind of reach. They don't get the same kind of reaction from audiences and stuff. So I think,
but you're right. But that's like saying the people who intentionally choose not to shower are surprised that people don't want them around.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how people behave. I've smelled plenty of stinky people. People don't know that their breath stinks, or that they're offensive to other people, that their ideas or they behave in ways that, push people away. If people realize that, there probably wouldn't be any incels.
She was saying that Sam is like a comedian first. He's not really, his primary focus isn't business, but
so
I
she's
think
got jokes too.
What they need is a $10 a month subscription. Like, they need to load, because they've got 1.3 million subscribers or something. Majority Report does. Like, you guys can monetize big time, get 20,000 subscribers a month, 15,000, whatever. You're gonna be fine.
She enjoyed telling people that that it was about the politics and it wasn't for money and da 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 da. She loved, she was reveling in pointing out that she was morally superior. That was one of the things that was really so gross about it. She came here and had this air of superiority, and we're better than you, and we're blah blah blah. And it was just, I found it, as a big turnoff.
You know what I think? The Majority Report, I think they're like the incel equivalent of politics, where you get a guy who's out of shape, doesn't have good social skills, says crude and rude things, smells bad, and has a poor diet. And then they get really jealous that people don't want to be friends with them. So they go online, they get really angry and start talking about how the world sucks and how bad it is. And I think that's what the Majority Report is. Because, you have this big political space with a whole bunch of different commentators of different various backgrounds, all having debates and getting along to varying degrees. And then you have the Majority Report where Sam gets banned from a bunch of different shows, then complains about it. And then when people bring up that he's banned, what did Emma say? She's like, well, it's because they're scared of him. It's like
part of it, and because he's a dick. She was
no
like,
one's scared of him, dude.
It's probably both.
It's literally not.
It's because Destiny is. He's straight up said if there's anyone on the left, I would be afraid to debate. It would be Sam
fine
Cedar.
If Destiny said that, but I think Sean mentioned that. But I can tell you this definitively because I've talked to many big networks and stuff. They've explicitly said they think he's just going to come and clown them. Like he's not a serious person. It's a clown show. It's the WWE of politics.
You're going to get this phase.
He was an actor. I mean, he's an actor. He's a comedian, funny actor. He was an actor for years.
But at least Jon Stewart actually would address things.
Yeah, John's pretty awesome. He's a unique dude.
And now he's doing the same thing. But let's move on. Let's move on and talk about where we're going with Get Woke, Go Broke, because we have this story from CNN Business. This is great, from last Friday. Starbucks workers at 150 stores go on strike over pride decorations. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They said that there was no policy to take down pride decorations, and then 150 United Starbucks stores in the United States went on strike on Friday. I think I said about 3,500 employees will be on strike, and I believe we have from the Post Millennial, Starbucks union boasts they closed 21 locations last weekend in response to the alleged LGBTQ pride decoration ban. I think it's fair to say it's not alleged. The workers at these stores said they weren't allowed to put up decorations. I don't care what corporate is saying. The people are, they're actually protesting. Here's what I think happened. I think Starbucks said outright, we're going to lose a bunch of money, shut it down, and the workers protested. I think that what we're seeing now is, as I mentioned earlier in the show, the Bud Light effect shows get woke, go broke, but also anti-woke equals clicks. And so you're seeing a lot of apolitical people now coming out and being like, oh, yeah, I don't like Bud Light, because they know they're going to get a million hits if they do it. Starbucks was just like, we better get out of this one. Just take it down. And now their employees are revolting. Well, their employees are in revolt.
Absolutely revolting.
Yeah. It is funny how that word goes two directions. No, their employees are in revolt at many locations, because this is what happens. Big corporations know, look, we're gonna in the members only section, we're gonna play the video of the guy doing something in front of children. Like, I got to be very careful. I don't even want to explain it. Spreading himself, and it's a horrifying in public. And I would normally like to challenge YouTube and be like, hey, YouTube, here's a video from Pride in public with children. Certainly you can't have a problem with that, right? But I know that there's a line. We did it before with one video, because I'm like, I don't think YouTube would take this down. They didn't. This one, I'm like, they're going to take it down. There's videos of explicit nudity. And it's like with these books like Genderqueer, when parents tried to read it to their school board meeting, they get banned from it, but the kids are reading it. So, anyway, my point is we'll show that in the members only section. But I think what's happening is when you see an old man, when you see a guy in a diaper and a dog mask running up to your kids, turning around and wiggling his butt at them, parents are starting to go like, hey, hold on there a minute. When you get the video of the guy with the Bugs Bunny mask fully nude and then jumping up and down and shaking his genitals in front of people and their kids at this event, regular people go, yo, hold on there a minute. Then Starbucks comes out and says, we love it. And they go, I ain't going to Starbucks anymore. Mm-hmm. Bud Light is the perfect example of it. Smack down, no longer the top beer in the country, and all these corporations fear it.
It's the hubris, right? It's the pride. Like, they think they can get away with acting in a revolting manner, right? Like, this is actually disgusting behavior that's repulsive to normal, everyday people. It's even repulsive to people that are part of the LGBT community. That's
why it's fracturing. That's why you're getting...
It's fracturing.
Groups like...
Gays Against Groomers and all of that.
And then Get the L Out. Quote, Get the L Out, end quote, is the name of an organization. It's lesbians who don't want to be associated with what's going on.
I love it. But
yeah,
we need to see more of that. They're dividing all of our factions, and now it's coming home to roost. And but they can't... There's going to be it's going to continue to get more and more extreme, and there will be more pushback. Like, this is going to hurt Starbucks. I don't know how long. I don't know how badly. It's not going to be the Target problem, but I don't get it. I mean, Starbucks is a pretty gay-friendly company. The idea that they're not gay enough is kind of a weird argument.
I don't think any of these companies care. People talk about ESG and CEI or whatever, and I'm like, they just want... Look, when there was no pushback, companies were like, how much will it cost to do a Pride Month thing? It'll cost $5,000 for the decorations. And what's our upside? Oh, we'll be involved in this big celebration, and then we'll maybe see a bump in sales. Now there's pushback. Now they say, yeah, it'll cost you $5,000 to do, and you'll lose $300,000 per location because people will boycott your store. And they're like, pull the decorations. Mm-hmm. They don't actually care. It's all about the path of least resistance. And the fact that regular people are providing resistance, these companies are immediately just changing course.
Mm-hmm. The regular people thing matters a lot. Like I said, I've said this before on the show. I was just in California doing some more ATR stuff last couple of weeks. And some of my friends out there, like, you talk to them about this stuff and they're like, look, I got kids and I'm a progressive guy and stuff, but man, that ain't right. But I don't want to do this. And they really understood the ramifications of having, their kids be exposed to this stuff. And I think that the average person is rejecting it out of hand. I think that the normal people that are, again, have maybe 15, 20 minutes a week for politics. That's all they spend on knowing what's going on in the world. They maybe they see some memes that their friends send, and then they'll listen to, the news for 15 minutes in the evening or whatever, or in the morning. Those people are the ones that are like, yo, I don't like the idea of the teacher wanting my child to transition.
I watched The Passion of the Christ for the first time last night.
Wow. I heard it was gruesome.
It is. It's really. And the beginning I thought was a little slow, and then it actually got really, really good. It's not, I wouldn't describe it as explicitly religious. I mean, obviously it is, but what I mean is it's political. The reason I bring this up is someone's just mentioned, because of all this, there's going to be a far-right backlash. And then I saw that, I thought to myself, I'm like, well, I did just watch The Passion for the first time ever. Because I was curious. I'm like, I grew up Catholic, not Christian, but I do now want to understand more so what the points that are being made. So I did watch it, and it's actually pretty good. I do think there needs to be a movie for the average person. This one was in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Latin with subtitles. Hard to watch. But the reason I bring it up is I learned a lot that I didn't know, even having gone to Catholic school, that changed my perspective on some of these issues. And I think it is partly due to what we are seeing from the left, that I was open to having watched a movie like that. Again, I'm not a Christian. I do believe in God. I don't believe in the Catholic Church or anything like that. But it got me watching this and learning about Pontius Pilate and what was the name? The murderer who was released and all this stuff.
Barabbas.
Barabbas and all this stuff. Yeah. Things I didn't know, that, the Pontius was like, I can release one person, Jesus or Barabbas, the murderer. And they were like, release the murderer. Like, that's how much they hated him.
See, you went to Catholic school and they didn't cover this.
Nope.
That is incredible.
But that may be why there's a break in religion in this country, for sure.
Of course.
They said they filled the crowd with people that were like, get Jesus. I think they had false flag. I think they had feds in the crowd.
No, that's right.
Look, I don't want to talk. I'm not trying to bring this up so we can talk about religion. Yeah. My point was simply, I do believe there will be a pendulum swing towards the right because of this. I think what's happening now is people are starting to ask questions of how to get to the point where there are pedophiles shaking their genitals in front of children and thrusting towards them while they watch. And it's like, well, I don't think it completely correlates with religion, but the pendulum will swing. People will look back at where we were 10 years ago and say, what were we doing back then? It's like, oh, okay, we had standards. The standards were like this. You're going to hear arguments from people who are Christian, who are Catholic, and they're going to say, here's what we believe and why we oppose it. And then you're going to get regular moms and dads who are like, what do I have to do to stop the man from gyrating nude in front of my children?
Yep.
And the left is going to say, you're a bigot. And the right is going to say, church is this way.
There's already people that are starting to talk about, Christian nationalism and stuff. And that's the too far swing back to the right. And like people like James Lindsay, thankfully, are already like looking for ways to push back against it, because there is going to be a reaction from the right. There's way more people going to church now than there were probably 5 years ago. There's way more young people converting or rediscovering religion in response to what they're seeing as what they would consider perversion or whatever, or what's the word they like to use? Deviancy or whatever. But it's something that liberals, and again, normal liberals, not progressives, it's something that liberals have to be aware of and have to be concerned with, because you don't want to allow the government to have too much influence by the Christian right. Like, a liberal society can make room for the Christian right. It can make room for progressives. It can make room for Muslims. It can make room for everybody if you have a liberal society that doesn't favor one ideology. Right now, our liberal society is heavily influenced and heavily favors progressive ideology. And I think it's really important to not allow the pendulum to swing back. And I know if Seamus were here, he'd be screaming at me, but I really do think that it's important to not let the pendulum swing back too far. And
swing back a little bit.
Yes, definitely back.
What I mean?
Well, to the point where we're not
not
chopping
like
genitals off.
Of little kids.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny, though, that it was the kids, like, they couldn't avoid going the kids route. Because that's, I think, where it all shifted, was when the American people saw just how much was aimed at our kids.
There's two
right
reasons.
in schools and on TV and just all of this stuff, the surgeries, all that stuff. The kids were the final straw. It started kind of with the women's sports issue, right? Like that was where you first started to see a big pushback.
They had to go for the kids.
Yeah.
Because as we've talked about quite a bit, the birth rates among those of the liberal worldview are substantially lower than those of conservatives. And so the saying goes, socialists don't have kids, they have yours, but it's not working. The parental rights and education stuff. The reason why Emma had to defend genderqueer and this book is gay is because the left needs to indoctrinate kids and break them from their families. Yep. Grooming is one way to do it. Here's what happens. They need to create a rift between parents and kids to such a degree that the kids run away from home. It really is a crazy thing, right? So I'll give you an example. One of the things we talked about on the Culture War podcast was desistance rates. If a child is gender dysphoric, desistance is when they stop being dysphoric. And there have been a couple studies that we've cited. These are the cited studies as it pertains to desistance. 61 to 95, or is it 98%?
I think it's like 96, or it's around there. It's in the high 90s.
90%. So let's say the lowest number, 61% of children suffering gender dysphoria who receive no intervention desist. That is the majority. If we're trying to do the maximum amount of good, taking a utilitarian perspective, well, then we would lean towards not intervening and giving medical treatment or sex changes to kids. She advocated for it, despite the fact it would result in more suicide and more depression. Mm-hmm. Why? It's the only way they can get new recruits to their cult. If children are raised by conservative parents in conservative households and conservative communities, those kids will be conservative. They need to find a way to rip those kids from the parents, and they found a way. So if you look at it this way, if 61% of kids desist with no intervention and they go on to lead normal lives, that would mean the suicidal ideation drops dramatically with no intervention. If you intervene, they say that detransition is almost non-existent among those that are put on puberty blockers. However, going from the natural rates of desistance and looking at the percentage of trans people who commit suicide, which is sad and horrifying. We don't want that to happen. If they take 10 kids who are gender dysphoric, and on the high end, 9 out of 10 will desist, that means they are taking 9 kids and increasing the risk of suicide among those kids by something like 50%. Mm-hmm. If they do nothing, those 9 kids will not see an increased suicide rate because there's an increased suicide rate amongst people who are gender dysphoric. So when they advocate for giving intervention to kids who would otherwise be better, they are advocating for increasing the risk to suicide. That's why my view is we should not be doing this. I don't care what the AMA says or whatever. But again, the point is, it doesn't matter to them because they need to find a way to rip kids from their families.
Both Stalin and Hitler made comments about if you get control of the children, it doesn't matter what the parents think. It's something that is baked into socialist ideology because they want to change society. They don't like the liberal society that we live in. And unhappy people can be made into revolutionaries. Happy people that have happy families, they are not looking to revolt. So the left, the revolutionary left, unquestionably wants miserable people with destroyed lives so that way they can make them into activists. Happy people don't revolt. You're not going to get a revolution when most people are happy. That's the biggest problem that Herbert Marcuse found with capitalism. He was like, look, capitalism delivers the goods. So we have to find other unhappy people because capitalism has made the proletariat mostly happy, mostly successful. They have a good life. So.
Tim, can I reiterate something that your whole point about them ripping the kids away from the parents, that is the entire point.
Yep.
And you need to look no further than their next steps that they're already working towards, right? So like the last year and a half, 2 years, we've gotten 19 states to ban these treatments and puberty blockers for kids. 19, right? We need all 50. We
Child
need
sex changes.
Child sex changes. Where the blue states are going now, because they know the desistance rates, what they're doing is they're doing trans trafficking bills,
Right.
Where basically if the kid, if you're on vacation, right, and you're in Washington State, California, or Minnesota now, and you are there and your kid calls CPS or whatever, calls the cops, the state can actually take your kids away from you and put you into foster care.
It's worse than that. Your 13-year-old kid is surfing on the internet and goes on TikTok, gets exposed to the likes of Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney advocates these children drink alcohol. Haha, it's so much fun. Drink beer. Beer is fun. Advocates for a lot of these ideas. The kid gets confused. The kid says, I can't talk to my parents because people online are telling me that my parents will get mad at me. Then someone messages them and says, if you want, I can drive you to Washington. Stranger on the internet drives the kid to Washington and says, we saved them. And the state says, yup, you sure did. An internet stranger can kidnap your child, have them sterilized in another state, and that state says it's illegal.
Yep.
But it's kidnapping in the state. I would imagine that.
And do you think Joe Biden's DOJ would go after the person who did the kidnapping?
Takes the FBI.
They won't do it. Of course they won't.
I would doubt it. I hope they would, but
I mean, come on.
doesn't-
The
I don't think they
NYPD,
would.
they didn't arrest any of these people who were thrusting in front of children.
They are a protected class.
The
That's
police
what everyone's ignoring.
support it.
Right.
The cops in New York. This is the funny thing about Back the Blue and all that stuff. I'm like, you realize that the left, BLM, they're protesting Democrat cops in Democrat cities. I don't care about them. Like, good. Look, when they come out and say defund the police, I'm like, yes, please do so. Now, don't come to where I live and defund the police. Our cops are good because we live in MAGA country and our cops are MAGA cops. So, like, they don't allow this. Now, to be fair, we do have, I was talking about this earlier, Jefferson County, which is Harper's Ferry, has banned children being a part of drag shows as it's adult and sexually explicit. But Berkeley County doesn't. And recently in Martinsburg, West Virginia, they had a drag show where they invited children up on stage. And this is a dude wearing overtly sexual stuff. Like, it is, I would call it overtly sexual, but not sexually explicit is a fair way to put it. I would call it grooming. Introducing kink and foreplay to children. That's basically what they're doing. They did not get arrested, and that's in West Virginia. So you still have their problems. But these cops in New York, this has been going on for decades. These New York cops like it. They're a part of it. They're there watching it happen going, yeah.
Do you think that there's anyone there that is I mean, I'm sure there's a few that are against it, but like,
Nope.
play it out.
No, absolutely not. 100% of the NYPD cops
You don't think they've
love
game
it.
planned it and
The
they're just following
NYPD cops
orders?
love it. Love.
Well, you
love.
saw the San Francisco cops, right? Like they're
They love
marching in, doing the whole pride flag procession.
NYPD took a knee for BLM. Okay, you listen. You can tell me that you think probably deep down inside they're disturbed by what they had to do, but I'm kind of like, listen, man, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
If someone told you to like sniff durian, you'd be like, no, it's disgusting, right? If you were like, oh man, I really don't want to, but let me get in there and sniff it, I'm gonna be like, come on, you want to. And be like, no, they're making me. If you really didn't want to do it, you wouldn't do it. Now, there is, obviously, there's nuance in all this, and there are certain things that people don't want to do, they do. But I'm kind of like, look, man, if you were in the NYPD, if you're in New York, and you know there are adult men, pedophiles, thrusting their genitals in front of children, and you're like, leave me out of that, at least I can say you're okay with it. The NYPD, these officers are okay with what's going on. The funny thing is, there's a story about a woman who goes around New York topless, and cops will arrest her for it. And then she sues them and wins because it is legal to be topless for women in New York City. Where are these cops during these events where these people are breaking the law explicitly? They don't care because at the very least I can say, they may say they don't like it, fine, but they are okay with it. Me, I'm not. I'm not okay with it.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to live in a place like that.
No.
Hierarchy. It's a dual application of the law. It's not the same thing, but it's the same attitude that people have when it comes to all the way up to the president and the president's kid. You know, the Democrats can get away with breaking the law, can get away with doing, what would be illegal for you or me. And the reason is because of political opinions.
Always has been.
Yeah, the J6 people are still in jail for trespassing.
Did you know, I could be wrong about this, but we've been doing our research, and in West Virginia, it is illegal to cohabitate if you're not married.
Really?
What?
I'm pretty sure the law, I don't know if there's been any rulings on it, but the law stands. You can look, you can pull it up right now. I think it's like chapter 61 or something, West Virginia Criminal Code. And the law just says what it says. It may be that there's a precedent where that nullified it or something, but I'm like, the law's still there. Nobody enforces it.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
I think Massachusetts still has laws on the books that they called blue laws that were from back in the day. Things like you're not allowed to have your store open on Sunday.
Right.
And I don't know if they're still on the books, but when I was a kid, they were still on the books, and we made jokes because,
Imagine being a devout Catholic, angry that people are violating the Sabbath, and you're like, these liberals came in and got the cops to stop enforcing the Sabbath law, and there you go, progress.
It's likely that this particular topic will not have the same effect as violating the Sabbath, just because there is
going after kids is different from having a job on Sunday.
Exactly, between that or whether it be the lax prosecution of people that commit violent crimes in cities and stuff like that. That stuff has a direct result that people really are going to notice.
Yeah.
Did you find the law?
Yeah, but it's a kind of wordy. There's an abstinence, divorce, and void marriage section. There's also a bigamy section.
I like the law. The first paragraph is like, you shall not cohabitate if not married or whatever.
If you're any person being married who during the life of the former, see, this is a little challenging.
No, you're reading a different law.
Okay, then this is 61.8, I think is the one you were.
Yeah, there's one specifically about cohabitation without marriage or whatever. But anyway, my point is, in New York, they don't enforce these laws because it is socially acceptable in New York to do these things.
No, we're talking about reactionism to the pendulum swinging, and if it could swing back hard in the other direction inadvertently. I think the two things that really get my gut, where I'm like, wow, I could see myself freaking out and becoming one of those pendulum things if I didn't have my head on straight, is going after children with sex and store violence. People breaking into stores and just robbing the shelves. I'm like, yo, when aren't they armed? Aren't these stores like, don't they have armed defense?
Just do it.
Like, oh yeah, I think my camera might have.
No, we're opening the door.
Oh,
because
cool.
there's no point to wait. The door's going to be open. Yeah, because the AC is busted.
All right.
It's like 83 or 84 degrees in here now, and I'm like, okay, we got to open the door.
I've had like 3 of these liquid deaths. They're great.
Cozy.
Like when I find
cozy is
myself,
not the way I describe it.
when I find myself wondering, like, why aren't these shopkeepers armed? When the 3 dudes walk in and they all have guns with them, and I'm like, the shopkeeper's just him versus a bunch of armed dudes. Like, it makes me want the shopkeeper to be armed, and then I'm like hoping he's able to defend himself. And it's like that. I don't want that. But that's what I want when I see these people breaking and destroying businesses. I want these people, their livelihoods to survive. What's that?
You want order?
Yeah, I do want order.
That's the impulse that ends up having the right come into place, because
Baron Trump is going to be like this brutal iron fist dictator.
It's going to be Seamus.
Have you ever seen
the Red Caesar?
No, have you seen the picture from the Denver airport of the kid with the iron fist? No. You know what I'm talking about? These conspiracy paintings from Denver.
For sure, though.
Let me pull up these conspiracy theory paintings, Denver paintings. I'll show you, man. It's all been pre-planned. Where are these pictures?
Baron Trump is, man.
I'm kidding, by the way, but I do want to show you these pictures.
I mean, you could be kidding, but at the same time, the Simpsons were kidding a lot, and then stuff happened.
So
like, there are these creepy paintings that people always talk about. It's like there's like a Nazi officer stabbing the dove of peace or whatever, and people are cowering and crying. And then there's like the earth being destroyed and animal, like a penguin in a box. Yeah, it's like because they've gone extinct. Here's one. It's like new age, like lefty religious iconography.
Yeah.
And then there's where's the Iron Fist one? There's a kid. Let me look this up.
It's Gnosticism.
Where's the kid? Iron Fist. Marvel stuff comes up. There's a kid raising I don't know where it is. Is this one it? Yeah, okay, there it is. There it is. You can't really see him. It's a German kid, it looks like. And he's got an iron fist and he's raising it up for peace or whatever. Anyway, I'm kidding. But like, that's the joke, that it's going to be like 20 or 30 years and Baron Trump is going to hey, we're going to bring order, and he gets elected and then he's the dictator.
Scary, but I mean,
I really don't think Baron Trump's going to be president or anything like that. I'm just kidding.
I would like to meet him.
So if you go, the Atlantic,
his name is Baron, though.
The Atlantic ran this article in 1926, and you can find the actual copy of it. But it was about the dissolution of marriage and the abolition of family in the Soviet Union. They had a reporter go over, and she went to all these little towns. They basically made marriage dissolution a 5-minute process, no fault. Anyone could go in.
Hey, didn't Reagan do that?
Yeah, that's right. He was one of the. I think they were the first state in California. That's exactly right. So in this article, it has stories from the villagers who are saying this is insane. What was happening is these guys would go and they'd knock up these women after marrying them, and then they just abandon them. And you would have these entire towns and cities being ransacked by these criminal orphans, right? And
kind of like what's happening now.
Exactly. This is exactly what we're going through. It's been a longer process in the United States. I mean, we've had no-fault divorce for 70 years about, but this is exactly what
we're. It was the 80s.
No, it was in like the 50s and 60s when they started doing like striking it down through the courts, I think.
But it was Reagan who explicitly got rid of no-fault divorce.
But he did it when he was governor of California, I think. I don't think there was a federal dissolution of marriage act. I think the states started doing it, but it's exactly what we're going through right now. It's so crazy.
Whoa. None of the ideas that come from the left are significantly different than any of the ideas that were coming from the left 100 years ago. They're just dressed differently. Instead of having bourgeoisie and the proletariat, now they've made it more like the Nazis did, and it's all race based and stuff now. But the ideas and the prescriptions are still the same. The socialist ideal is to remake man so that way man desires to be a social animal, a socialist in his very core.
But don't they see that stripping the family apart is bad for the kids and therefore bad for the society?
They do not. Because if all of your family is humanity, because you're a socialist, you don't need a mom and a dad, because all of the adults have the correct socialist opinions that they can just pass on to the children. And then the children will teach the adults, and the adults will teach the children.
We talked about this on the Culture War podcast when we were talking with Zach Voorhees on AI and stuff. And the way I described it was, think about the human body. There are single-celled organisms all over everything. Those little single-celled organisms are little individuals that run around doing little who knows what. Then you get multi-celled organisms. The human body has a whole bunch of cells. They all must do their job. What do you call a cell in the human body that deviates from its job?
Cancer.
Aberrant. Called cancer. And what does the body do to things that deviate from their prescribed job?
Eat them.
Destroys them. Sometimes it does not, and the cancer eventually destroys the body and it ends it. The way I would describe the modern left is they want to create a human civilization that functions much in this way, in that you will be born and given your task and you will never deviate or else. They want to turn the human system of individuals into an organism system where everyone functions much like a cell and does their assigned job, period. And with genetic modification and engineering, CRISPR and all that stuff, you'll get to the point where you will have bred enforcers like China's doing with super soldiers. Mm-hmm. You will have bred miners, bred analysts. You'll be born. It's like the plot of Man of Steel. Have you guys seen that? Where on Krypton, they evolved to the point where they started genetically engineering people for their specific jobs. And he was, they say that Kal-El, Superman, is the first natural birth in like 100 years or whatever. And then Zod is like, blasphemy! That's the world they want to create. Oh, you will be a white blood cell. Your job is to eliminate free radicals and intruders, and you will never be anything else. Your job is the red blood cell. You will carry the oxygen, you will oxidize, et cetera, et cetera. They will give you your task, and you will never deviate.
That's not good, because diversity is one of our strengths. Even on an individual level, man. You're supposed to be able to be an astronaut and a musician and a teacher. Like all those things. You can do all that stuff.
It never, ever works out like that. Like the idea that once you get to the socialist utopia, you can, do your slam poetry and be an artist. No, get in the mine.
They're the free radicals.
Yeah.
They would call themselves free radicals.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I can confirm 50 years ago is 54, no-fault divorce. 1969 in California, Ronald Reagan signed the first no-fault divorce statute.
You're right. I thought it was when he was president.
And then I guess he did it again when he was president nationally. Is that the story?
I don't know. I don't think he did. I don't think there's anything nationally. I think it's just like the courts all started striking it down a lot, like the gay marriage progress.
And now in all 50 states, there's no-fault divorce. So what do we reverse this no-fault divorce thing?
Yes, absolutely. This is what I was describing. I said, how about we do this? You can keep your no-fault divorce, but we'll create something called super marriage. where if you agree to first you get married. Once you're married, you can then upgrade through the courts to a super marriage, and you can't break a super marriage. Sorry, it's till death do us part.
So in Louisiana, we're trying to figure out how to solve this too. Louisiana has something called covenant marriage. And it's not like what you just described where like you can upgrade your marriage. You either enter into like a state marriage, a government marriage, or you enter into a covenant marriage. And it's not you don't abide by no fault divorce. But the numbers for it are not impressive. And so there needs to be more like a marketing campaign for it. I need to look more into it, to be honest. I don't know if they've tried to market it, but you would think that like women would demand that their husband or their fiance enters into that extra protection of marriage. But I don't know.
Marriage today has been downgraded to dating.
Yep. It's like Disney.
It's like you see the celebrities like they were married for a year. I'm like, bro, what's the point of saying till death do us part if you actually mean like we'll see how it goes?
Garbage.
Yeah, marriage doesn't exist. Yeah. No fault divorce ended marriage. Now we have something we call marriage, but there's no marriage. And surprise, surprise, we're heading in a similar direction to the Soviets.
Yep.
Slower, because we do have protections from the Constitution and things like that, but it's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, aspects of it, I guess. But I mean,
but yeah, we're it's not like we're just in the Soviet Union. It never just happens overnight. It's slowly and incrementally.
Oh, speaking of this Russian Revolution that was happening, apparently that was like I think they both realized this is when what's his name, the Putin's best friend of 23 years, who was running the mercenaries, turned on Moscow, and they're like, oh, he's going to overthrow the country. It's going to be another Russian Revolution like 1917. And I think they both realized that, and we're like, we got to call this thing off. I heard they were going to disband the mercenary group, and that's why they revolted. And then they're like, no, okay, we're not going to disband you. It could be all fake news. I don't know. But they are afraid of another Russian Revolution. That's at least it seemed like it. What do you say, Phil?
I'm afraid. I mean, I don't know, but I think that the United States not doing something, had there been actual conflict between Wagner and state forces, I think that would have drawn the U.S. into some kind of, or at least made the neocons say, look, we really need to get some kind of boots on the ground to control the situation, because of the fact that they have so many nuclear weapons, and the United States would feel like we need to control that.
I think the United States as an institution,
that's not an endorsement either,
is Swiss cheese. It is, I imagine, a piece of paper in which several points of it have been lightly ignited and are just burning to embers from the inside out. The fact that we have this conflict in Eastern Europe that makes literally no sense for the most part. It's a failed liberal economic order led by the U.S. and Western powers that's failing and makes no sense, struggling. The fact that Donald Trump even got elected shows that the deep state, permanent government powers that be have failed. The children who inherited this machine don't know how to run it. The fact that you have this Bolshevik-style family destruction happening in this country, all of the institutions of this country are crumbling, including the military, the foreign empirical structures, and all that stuff. And I'm just like, that's what I think a lot of these leftists want. They want it to just crumble and collapse. I'm sure Russia and China are happy to see it happen as well and are probably fanning the flames online. TikTok, I think, intentionally does this. And it's annoying to me when I see these Republicans being like, we should ban TikTok for data privacy concerns. And I'm like, no, you should do it because they're indoctrinating your kids to self-harm. And it's horrifying.
They always do that, though. Like, the Republicans will, like, look at the national debt debate, right? They talk about fiscal sanity and fiscal responsibility. We've had $1 trillion deficits for, it's Bill Clinton, I think. That was the first one we went over. If you want to cut the deficit, you want to cut the debt, start arguing in terms of morality. Argue against how these programs that we're funding are killing the country and how it's hurting us. Like, that is the way to do it. That's exactly right. TikTok is bad because it's hurting our kids, not because they're taking our data. No one cares about that. It's too like esoteric or niche.
Yep.
No one knows for sure if it's what they're doing. That's the big problem.
No, we do know for sure it's what they're doing.
It's all
it's explicit that they're doing it.
Well, it's inductive. Like, we don't have access to the code, so we can't verify that it's intentionally doing it. It might just be, they could be like,
I didn't say
this is the outcome.
I said they are doing it. TikTok is.
I guess that's true. It's true.
And to be fair, like, to an extent, YouTube as well, but TikTok being the worst and being owned by our principal foreign adversary, indirectly. I mean, but basically, yes, it is. So they promote videos that cause kids to self-harm.
Like it could be a thing where
they ban people who push back against it.
It could be like, and I think it is nefarious personally. I think that they're using it like a 5th generational warfare tactic, but it could be the kind of thing where like if I'm dropping rocks on the ground and then they're rolling down the hill and you're like, Ian's rolling hills down the ground and I don't even realize it. I'm just dropping the rocks. They just happen to be rolling.
Yes, Ian.
So
if you were on top of a hill and you were throwing rocks down it, it doesn't matter what your intention is.
Exactly. I don't know what their intention is.
Stop you from doing it.
I assume their intention is that they want to corrupt the youth of the United States and the rest of the globe to fall in line with Chinese economics. That is my.
I think they want the U.S. to crumble.
Well, the TikTok's different in China, isn't it? I've read about
They don't
this.
have TikTok in China. It's a similar but different thing.
Yeah, it's like Sesame Street though, like for kids. Like they have like educational stuff.
It's a little exaggerated when people say like theirs is perfect and ours is bad. They don't have TikTok. They have a different company that does something similar. They have their own version of it, but they own ours, and ours is weaponized against us. Has been weaponized to cause us harm. So, but mostly yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it should be banned. But anyway, Republicans are mostly controlled opposition. So what do I ultimately think is where we're headed for? I think the U.S.'s position as the leader of the liberal economic order, or the global economic order, whatever they want to call it, it's going to be over. I think the U.S. will probably go back to more humble roots. It's a simple way to put it. I don't see the system being sustainable. It's about to collapse. I'm not saying your life will end and the world will burst into flames. I'm saying probably don't want to be in a city. Probably want to get a nice little piece of land with some chickens or something on it, some goats, maybe have a little garden. Because good luck. You're in a city.
There's a lot of countries that are moving away from the dollar, that are looking to buy oil and other forms of currency and stuff. And I think that that's probably the most salient evidence that the United States has lost or at least the dollar's lost its luster, that people around the globe are looking to move away from alliances with the U.S. And, you can point to any number of political follies that the government has engaged in the past 15, 20 years. But if the dollar is not the reserve currency, then the value of the dollar is going to be, destroyed, because not just because of how many we printed up, but because we're no longer the country that maintains hegemony throughout the world.
Yeah, Alex, we're going to talk about Alex Jones. I just saw in the next clip, but he was on Patrick Bet-David's show and was talking about like this war in Russia, or this revolution potentially going on in Russia, where they're Prigozhin, I think, is the name of the guy who runs Wagner Group. And he was like, well, he asked them genuinely, like, would we be better off if some new regime took over in Russia that was sympathetic to the West? And they didn't have an answer, but I thought, yes, we wouldn't be killing each other anymore, but it would become techno-fascism way more rapidly. Like, they want a peaceful world where people are plugged into machines. They don't want fighting. They don't want killing. They don't want blowing up. They want everyone to be subservient as much as possible. And I think it would be better than warfare. It might be the next step of our evolution, but it might also just become a pressure cooker.
Let's jump to this next story from Timcast.com. Alex Jones says deep state will try to assassinate former President Donald Trump. Radio show host says that corrupt government actors will never allow Trump to make good on a promise to prosecute them for their criminal activity. You want to know why I found this so interesting is that RFK Jr. said something similar recently. He said that he has to be aware of what they did to his uncle and his dad, right?
Yeah, his dad. Yeah.
And so he's like, it's a very real possibility. If we've come to a point, call it whatever you want, believe whatever you want to believe. The left can say far right conspiracy theory, whatever. It's come to the point where high profile personalities in this country, including one presidential contender himself, RFK, are afraid that there is a potential assassination looming for two different prominent high-profile contenders, and dare I say, front runners. When we're talking about, like, let's say the top 5 candidates who could win. RFK Jr., they may call him fringe, they may say it's never going to happen, but he's polling really well. And so he's certainly polling better than any other Republican outside of Trump and DeSantis. And I think he's got more favorability than all other candidates. Now you got Alex Jones saying this, and a lot of people will say, oh, but Alex Jones is crazy. And I'm like, listen, we know that they're going to they're literally prosecuting Trump. I don't know about going this far, but it's been said by other people and it's been said before. And if RFK is saying something similar himself, it just, I don't know. Does it speak to the times? Does it speak to the times that we're in? that we're at this point. I was just talking about how the institution of this country is Swiss cheese. Like the fabric of this nation is being burned out from the inside, and it's fumbling and breaking apart. Could you have ever believed 10 years ago that we'd get to a point where a contender for the presidency would say he fears assassination, and when there's actual talk in the political space among high-profile shows of the former president who was running potentially being assassinated, like people wouldn't believe you if you said that's where we'd be.
You mentioned,
or maybe you would. I don't know.
You mentioned earlier the left having a problem with this. The left should not be, or is in no position to make comments about whether or not the CIA will or will not do something, because the CIA has been the boogeyman of the left for literally ever. If you ask anyone that's an actual leftist why socialism has not taken hold globally, it is going to be the CIA. That's what they're going to say. They're going to blame CIA. They do it all the time. So the idea that the left would reject a conspiracy theory about the CIA killing a president or possibly...
No. They love the CIA now. They love the FBI now. Like, because they control it. But they took it over.
The general umbrella left. Not leftists. Like, fringe leftists still don't like them. They hate the United States. They hate institutions.
Yeah, I get that.
But, like, the liberals who used to pretend to align with the left, now absolutely. But I wonder, is this our last presidential election? And I mean that in a hyperbolic sense. Like, is this going to be a tumultuous and strange election that breaks the routine we've expected of every 4 years? In that it's not going to be Joe Biden. The way the reporters are coming after him, the way the Hunter Biden scandal is going, I'm hearing that Joe's lawyered up already.
It's going to be Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, maybe.
And Michelle's going to win. It's going to be Michelle. She's going to dominate.
I don't know.
That's what Alex was saying.
He thinks it's going to be Michelle?
He was like, it's either going to be Gavin at Michelle or Michelle Gavin.
And I've been saying something similar too. Like if Michelle Obama ran, I said this.
And then Obama will run the office from his basement in his sweats, just like he joked about wanting to do.
But the question is, do they have the wherewithal to maintain the machine that they failed to maintain for the past 8 years?
I think so. I think Michelle's the kind of person that can be shocked out of it. Like her and Barack are like asleep in the machine, but I sense their humanity.
It's not a single person. We're talking about, look, Donald Trump should not have gotten elected. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to be Hillary Clinton. And Trump won because they screwed up bad. 2020 comes around and they went insane in their panic and desperation to the point where Boston Globe reported they entertained the possibility of the West Coast seceding from the Union if Trump won again. Now, 2024 is coming around and Trump's in the polls doing really well and they know Biden ain't got it. So what do they have? You're right. Last ditch effort, Michelle Obama. But even with Michelle Obama, can they muster up the machine they need to defeat Donald Trump?
If they can do it with Biden, they can do it with Michelle.
That was during COVID.
Yeah, but I like Michelle, man, and I'm not even I'm not registered Democrat or any of that, but I really like that girl. I think she is really smart. She's the reason Barack ever had the confidence to become president. She has 2 great kids, as far as I can tell.
What does that have to do with anything?
Disavow.
I think she'd be a good leader. What? I mean, I think she's stable. I think she's willing to say no to the crap, the bad stuff, and overturn what's gone too far.
Barack Obama killed a 16-year-old American kid.
I know. That's political command, but I don't like it.
See, I think Michelle Obama will be a despotic tyrant with a smile on her face, just like Barack
they all
was.
are. All the presidents turn out to be that way.
I'm not gonna get behind them. And this is the funny thing. Because I got the DeSantis people who are all mad at me and they lie so much. Holy crap. They're like, they're tweeting about claiming that I said Trump will magically change his behavior and become the best president. I'm like, when did I said he has a slightly higher chance of firing people. That's it. Mm-hmm. I want to see the corruption dismantled. And is Trump going to be the greatest president of all time? No. On foreign policy, maybe. But that's just one specific area. There's a lot of bad things he did in foreign policy as well. But in terms of firing corruption, ripping it from the system, Trump wants revenge. I'll take what I can get. Does it mean he's going to be good? No.
The problem with that is that he announced it. That he announced he was going to go in and arrest all these people. Like, no. Dude, you don't.
That's why I will vote for him.
But you don't. But that's why they won't let him win. Because you can't show your hand beforehand and be like, these are my secret plans. Once I get in, I'm going to end your career. You're like, no, they're not going to let you get in, dude.
He did play ball the first time around.
He tried, yeah.
He tried playing ball.
He thought it was going to be a traditional American presidency, and that was his big miscalculation.
Yep. And he brought in people we didn't like, and we criticized him for it, and he kept people on that he should have fired, and we criticized him for it because he thought, I'm going to work with them to the best of my abilities, and I'm going to do my agenda, and they were not having it. Now he's like, I realize the truth. They must be dismantled.
Yeah, but I'm not saying he's wrong or right. I'm not saying he's wrong, but he should not, in my opinion, he should not have said that out loud. He should have went in there, won the job, and then did it without telling anyone he was coming. Because if they know you're coming, they're going to fortify.
But they did. They accused him of being a traitor working for the Soviet Union. Not even Russia. The Soviet Union. Jonathan Chait goes on MSNBC and he's like, Trump might be a Soviet. It's like, the Soviet Union doesn't exist. He didn't say that explicitly. He said Trump may have been a Russian asset going back to the 80s. Yep. Okay, that would mean he was a Soviet asset, But
meanwhile, the Dems in this country, there was a letter from Ted Kennedy to the Soviets asking them to help fight against Reagan in the early 80s. Like, it was always the Dems that had aligned with the Soviets, and they were always partners.
Didn't Bernie Sanders go?
Yeah, I believe that's right.
In the Soviet Union.
So it was great.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, people are disappearing, dying, being beaten.
There were plenty of people in the West that were very prepared to write apology pieces for the Soviet Union. There were people at the New York Times. I forget the guy's name. He was writing during the
Holodomor.
Not just, well, the Holodomor, yes, but I was thinking about something that someone was writing glowing pieces about Stalin, and he was at the New York Times, like writing great pieces about Stalin while Stalin was, killing millions of people and throwing people in the gulags, and while the gulag system was at its peak, there were people in the West writing glowing pieces about Stalin because they believe in the ideology and they believed whatever you need to do to get to the communist utopia, to remake man as a socialist, was fine. That's the reason why the left always makes excuses for the horrors and atrocities that the left does, is because if we just get past this hard part, if we just get past the part where a bunch of people die, then we'll have remade society into a socialist utopia, and then we'll have the perfect society where everyone has what they need, and etc. So it'll be worth killing off this many people or whatever, because once we get through this bad part, then the utopia is on the other side. It's just that you never get through it. The bodies just pile up, and that's why you end up with dozens of millions dead.
Look, they want to eliminate free radicals to create what I would describe as a organism system. Mm-hmm. They want the people who are like, I would like to be an accountant and nothing more. And then they want that person to stay in their box and do what they're told. We're free radicals. We're bouncing around doing all this crazy individualism stuff. That's bad for the expansion of the machine into a higher state.
But it is good for America.
It's good for humanity, the world, for human progress. A decentralized system is better than a centralized one.
Yeah. Because then Elon Musk said this, right? Because then it's better it's not decentralized, because then not everything goes to hell, right? Not everything fails at the same time. Right. You want diversity when it comes to nations. You don't want one world government.
Let's think about it this way. Little single-celled organism runs around, lives its life. It's fine. It eats, it lives, it dies. It happens. If the cell next to it dies, it's fine. But in a human, if a clump of cells in one part of the body fails, every other cell dies off. That's the risk of a centralized system. If a human dies, it causes damage to the greater system. Let's say the human's a farmer. Farmer dies. Okay, well, someone's got to pick up the slack and replace that person. That happens in a body like normal. A cell can die off and then it gets replaced by another one. However, if we centralize everything, then the risk of catastrophic cascade failure exponentially increases, because you cannot replace an accountant with a plumber. In a decentralized system, it's much easier to fill gaps, more fluid like water and less rigid.
Yeah, I guess you have an amalgam of a centralized, decentralized system. So just like a human body, you have a brain, which is kind of a pseudo-centralized or area of the system. You have a heart, you have a stomach, all these like minor centralizations. So like in any truly decentralized system, you have larger nodes, which tend to be seemingly a little more of a central area where more people are coagulating.
But if one node fails, it can be replicated, replaced, or the whole system doesn't collapse.
Yeah, you don't want to rely on any one area of the system ever. If you have to rely on one area for the system to function, that's a big vulnerability.
It's like we have 2 kidneys. If one fails, we might survive. We probably will with one. Think about that in terms of how I want to centralize humanity into one big machine, one big system. You get one centralized node failing that can't be replicated, and the machine will collapse. Humanity collapses, and then has to build itself back up from the ashes. I think decentralization works way better in terms of everything. The speed of progress, especially the happiness of people in general. The Soviet Union didn't work. People were miserable. They were starving. They were miserable. And the greatest point made is when the Berlin Wall came down, which side ran to which side? It's fairly obvious. Why would you want to live in a system where you're just suffering the whole time? You wouldn't. Now, the idea of the communists is get rid of the free radicals, find the cogs who are blind and happy to be blind, and they will be happy and they will own nothing.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird how they went after the intelligentsia in the Soviet Union. I was like,
Of course.
Why? Oh, they're the ones that would challenge the
Free
system.
radicals. Got to get rid of the free radicals, man. Antioxidants.
One problem with decentralization is in finance. If you truly have a decentralized financial system, then there's no organized currency. And without organized currency, it's almost like we don't really have a country without a unified dollar. So if everyone had their own currency, Ian coin, Phil coin, Terry, I don't know. I think that would be a lot more chaotic and therefore potentially destructive of a world to live in. So in that, I value currency centralization. But I don't want a central bank controlling all the flow. You need checks and balances if you're going to have a central system. So you need to audit the Federal Reserve and anything that's attempting to control the money.
Or get rid of it.
Yeah, you could, but change it for something else, like that Indiana Jones move where he puts the bag of sand on. You want a new?
I don't know. I think
the
Federal Reserve is a control mechanism that creates slavery through ignorance.
Yeah.
People can't. You do work, you save objective value. Objective value retains value. You can later trade it because you did the work to produce the value. With the Federal Reserve, quantitative easing, the mass printing of money, and the controlling of interest rates, you do work, thing of value slowly degrades over time, so you have to keep working forever.
So crazy, dude. They loan money to the banks at interest. Then the banks loan that money to humans, to us, to the people that don't work at the banks, for more interest. So then so that the people at the bottom have to pay back this huge interest chunk to the bank so that they get a cut, then to pay back the rest of the interest to the Federal Reservist bank, these global bankers, so that they take the rest of the cut.
That's not how money works anymore. You don't have to pay back money to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve just they take money out of circulation and destroy it. You're not paying it back. They're just destroying the actual
money is created by banks upon the issuance of debt. So every time you swipe your credit card,
the Federal Reserve will
created.
offer promissory notes to the banks.
No,
the banks
but
promise to pay back.
There is a little bit of that, but it's not the typical means of monetary expansion.
Yeah, the reason.
Just 3 or 4 years ago, the Fed started paying interest to banks on their reserves. And last year, I think it was $300 billion in interest payments that the Federal Reserve paid to banks nationally so that they would sit on reserves. It's a totally new thing, and it's inflationary. The Federal Reserve makes no sense anymore. They're operating in all different types of ways.
I got an easy one for you. I was out the whole week, so I didn't get to promote it, but go to timcast.com, scroll down in the menu, you can see we have a documentary section, and you can watch Game of Money by Ben Stewart explaining how this all works. And breaking down the financial system and
So since they went on infinite reserve currency where they can print infinite amounts.
I think it went back. Didn't it go back? Someone mentioned they rescinded that policy. It was like an emergency. I don't know. I could be
Maybe
wrong.
it was March 2020 that they put it on.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen a documentary on it since they did that. So I'm looking forward to seeing
Are you talking about the debt ceiling?
Game of Money available at timcast.com.
The way the Federal Reserve used to have fractional reserve lending where banks would have, so you could loan $100 to someone and they could loan out $90 on top of that.
Yeah,
they'd hold the 100 and they could loan out 90. Now you can just loan out
reserve.
infinite without having any money.
Every time you swipe your credit card, you've created that money.
Yeah, there's no.
The money is created. The money given to that grocery store, you swipe your credit card for $100. That money is manufactured and dropped in their account.
There's people that make the argument that it's not even technically money that you have in your wallet or in your bank accounts and stuff because it's not a commodity. So money's supposed to be a commodity. It doesn't represent anything except for the promise of the government. So I don't have a deep knowledge on this type of stuff, but the difference between currency, which is just facilitating financial transactions, is a different thing to money, which some people say only gold or something that has value like Bitcoin or whatever would be considered actual money. And then now you're just left with paper currencies that are facilitating transactions, but not actually holding any value of their own. So.
Yep. Yeah, there's no savings. Savings is gone. In order to save now, you have to cross your fingers that something will retain value, maybe gold.
Yeah, you need to make
whatever.
money to keep up with inflation if you want to produce any sort of save. You need to be at least increasing your money at the rate of inflation.
It's kind of sad. But I think there's a lot of issues that come with massive population expansion of humanity that have allowed evil people to exploit to maintain massive levels of power.
Yeah, dude,
never
money,
before seen.
We don't have to always use money. There used to not be money. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of years ago. Humans invented the idea of currency at one point.
Money's good because otherwise you got to find someone that wants your fish or your chicken or your eggs because you're looking to trick, because all money is something that has right now it's a subjective value, but it has a value and that you can use to trade for other things. Because without money, you can't, like, you got a chicken and you want shoes, you got to find someone that has shoes you like that also wants your chicken.
But then you also got to figure out how many chickens you need for shoes.
Exactly. Money is just a lubricant. Money just lubricates social transactions, and that's one of the things that people don't understand when they talk about people like Elon Musk. Oh, he's got so much money and blah 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 blah. Elon Musk is worth that because he owns rockets, like actual rockets that go into space, and he owns cars, and he owns factories that make cars. He owns stock in the company, and that's where the value is. It's not in the dollars that he has. The dollars are just a means of transaction. It's just accounting.
Do you think that we're headed towards like a future where we evolve away past money, where we have infinite access to electricity?
I object to the term evolve because it implies that it's somehow a biological result or something biologically that would happen, and human beings don't evolve unless there are outside forces making them that make selection. Like, it takes outside forces for natural selection to happen, so it's not actually evolution. Like, you can call it progressing or you can call it changing, but when you say evolution or evolve,
right. Not the right word.
It comes to mind that there is an outside force creating a change in the species. That's what
maybe from one
is.
strata you would be like, hey, they evolved to do a new thing, but from within it doesn't feel. We're not actually. It's not.
Yeah,
a
it's
form
like
of evolution.
human beings don't change, and that the problem with that is the idea is like, we need to remake man, and it comes back to the problems with socialism. You cannot remake man, and the last thing that humans want to try is to create conditions to force an evolutionary response, because that means dead people. Right? You don't get an evolutionary response unless you have generations and generations of dead people.
I'm so worked up about the global banking system. Like, it got to this point where it's centralized at this Bank for International Settlements that these small group of people are attempting to control the world with money. Like, are we just done? Are we headed toward? Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you want to talk about God on earth, like, that's the money. People have misaligned and care so much about making money that it's more about, being connected with God for some people. But like, I just can't imagine a just system involving money, seeing how it's gone in the last 600 years, that it would ever be able to redo it and start it and make it. This time it's going to work out.
Bitcoin.
But then it just falls into the hands of somebody in the middle.
No, it doesn't.
But how do you know somebody doesn't own 51%?
Early on, I feared that. At this point, I do not fear that.
Really? How do you know, though?
Because there's
so big.
Competition international competition between adversarial nations is too much that they're fighting over it, but it does not work.
But like, if they could print up $6 trillion tomorrow from the Federal Reserve and buy Bitcoin with it, there's only like $2 trillion worth of Bitcoin on Earth. So like,
it's possible.
They've printed up $5 trillion in the last 7 years. It just seems like a pittance of potential for centralization.
They could. There are ways to destroy it. Nothing's invincible. But whether it's Bitcoin or an advanced technology of a similar method, the decentralized blockchain concept is strong.
Advanced technology being everyone has infinite electricity. Would that be even worse? Would we create monkeys with insane amounts of power and we would just kill each other off? Like, everyone had like a vibrating generator that gave them unlimited electricity. You could create water with it. You could fuse hydrogen. You could create food with it. You could make oil out of it.
It destroy the world.
You think if everyone just got that, it would just destroy everything?
I think if you could create instant fusion to create water, you'd create massive displacement of the ecosystem.
Then there's an argument that centralization on purpose is valuable, that we're actually creating gatekeepers intentionally to keep us alive.
Yeah, we need to build rockets. Decentralization is a faster method of developing technologies and preserving society. It's a better means of coming up with ideas to avert crises as opposed to one centralized committee, right? There's a benefit in a military context of having an emergency emperor, right? You need someone to make quick decisions and just get the job done ASAP. But that's simple. Knowing your borders, knowing your troop counts, that makes sense. What if a meteor is headed towards the Earth? Having one guy be like, okay, everybody build rockets is probably not the best idea. Having each different nation put all of their resources towards trying to find a way to divert or destroy the meteor and then coordinating in a decentralized manner is probably a more effective means, in my opinion.
So similar to like a decentralized system where you have large nodes on the system, permeate or
coordinating but not controlled. Like here's the way I look at it. One gigantic fist trying to smash through a gate, or water being poured through. The water will find a way to seep through the cracks and make it to the other side. That's decentralization. All the different droplets trying different methods of breaking through and getting to the other side versus hyper-focusing one at one point and then hitting the wall and missing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But let's go to Super Chats and see what the audience has to say. So smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com because we're going to have a members-only uncensored show, which is, oh boy. We got Snopes. Snopes said, were they chanting, "We're coming for your children"? True, they were. And we're going to show you videos that you're going to be upset about seeing, but they need to be shown. And we'll talk about what they're doing at these events at timcast.com in just about 25 minutes.
Yeah, Elad texted me during the show about that exactly.
Oh, the Snopes thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not, and interestingly, it's funny because this video's gone so viral and there's no watermark on it. So a lot of people properly attribute it, like Marjorie Taylor Greene posted the video and it says from Timcast News. She did it the proper way. I really do appreciate it. I'm not going to cry. I was getting hit up and they were like, oh, look, all these people are downloading the video and they're stealing it. And I'm like, dude, the point of having a journalist go film it was so that everyone would see it. What does credit do for us? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to make money off the video. We posted and said, everyone, quick, look at this. Now give me money. No. It's more like, look at it and tell your friends. But that being said, 10 years ago, me and my buddy Isaac put together an app called Tagly, which no longer exists, but I still have on my phone, which when you take a photo or video, instantly applies any text, date, and location to it. And so I'm like, okay, we need to bring this app back and get Elad this app. So the way the app works is you walk around, take a picture. The picture that is instantly saved to your camera roll will say whatever text, time, date, location. So you can put @Timcast on it. And then you take a picture, click upload, and the bottom left of the picture will have the tag, and the metadata has all the information in it too.
I was going to ask.
And then we were working on another function of it where it would create a fingerprint for every photo to create an encryption key, basically proving the rights and ownership of it. Basically like what NFTs sort of became or sort of are. And we were talking about doing this 10 years ago and we ran out of money, so we stopped.
Isaac?
We got to bring it back because Elad needs it. But anyway, let's read. All right. I'm Not Your Buddy Guy says, great trick in beating voter fraud is by doing ballot harvesting. Can you imagine the consequences of two ballots existing for the same person, yet two different signatures? Well, yeah, just get everybody to vote. It's that simple, huh? Purple says, welcome back, Tim. Friday morning show was amazing. And this Friday's show is going to be equally as amazing. I think we should publicize our guests for the culture war. We don't do it for IRL because people can cancel. But I think because the point of the culture war is to bring on two prominent personalities to have a discussion, debate, etc. I think Monday we should start the promo for Friday. So it's going to be live in the morning, Friday morning. We got two really awesome guests, and we're going to have a very heated, silly, but fun and serious in a lot of ways conversation. And we're doing it every week. So we got some really big ones planned. We got some celebrities coming.
Yeah, literally.
It's going to be crazy.
I think it'll be heated, but they're not going to be disingenuous and lie.
Yeah, no, I think, this one's going to be real. Like the genuine idea for the show with Emma and Sean was when she has to come on a few weeks before, I was like, yeah, we'll find somebody to sit and have a conversation with. And she agreed. And then she could have figured they were just going to make it about me or whatever. But the point of the show is not for being, it's not the Tim Pool Debates Random People show. So we have two people who are coming on, and I'm mostly going to be moderating. And, but I'll be a part of the conversation. It's not going to be as rigid of a debate format. But we've got a left and a right person. They're coming on and fairly prominent on each side.
It's going to be 1,000 times better than
it's going
Emma.
to be like so esoteric. It's going to be like, I think it'll be higher level political discourse.
Yeah.
But I do think there will be some invective.
Yeah, I mean, that makes
It'll
sense.
be interesting.
Yeah.
It will be. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Where are we at? Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, I showed my affluent white female liberal aunts the old dude tighty whitey video. They think it's disgusting. Told me to stop showing it. If they still can't grasp how it's them voting Dem is what brings this debauchery. I mean, the point is you show it to them and say, do you support this? And they say no, but like, okay, so we agree with each other. That's good. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. It's to open the door. To be like, look, if you like this video, then I don't think we can agree on anything. Oh, you don't like it? You see, now we got something we can work together on. And then ask them, do you think we should stop it from happening? Or do you think we should allow it to happen? What do you think? Let's grab some more super chats. Purple says, the French roast is bomb. Not going to lie. Cast proof for life. It all is ridiculously good. I can't even. I can't even. I just say I can't even. I got to tell you, the Appalachian Nights, we got samples. We mixed it, tried different blends. We put this blend together for a robust dark blend. It's very dark. It is the best coffee I've ever
That's
had.
your favorite one?
Favorite coffee period, like of anything I've ever had. We've had a bunch of different coffees come through this place, and I'm like, that's good. This one, okay, here's what I do. In the morning, I make a cup of coffee, and I slowly drink it over the course of 2 hours.
What do you put in it?
Heavy cream, that's it. I make coffee, and then I put in like a 4th cup of heavy cream, like an absurd amount of heavy cream. Yeah, very, very creamy.
It's good. It's the way to drink coffee these days.
No, it's like, it's keto. I cut out the sugar, and then I do a lot of fats.
Do you stir hard or use one of those stir those spinning things?
I just stir with a spoon real quick and then drink it. The Appalachian Nights is so good, I'm like chugging it in 5 minutes.
No sugar? You don't add sugar? or anything?
No. Are you crazy?
No, I do coconut water. So there's sugar in the
That's okay.
coconut
There's
water.
only a little bit. That's fine.
It tastes like a milkshake.
I do appreciate it. We've basically gotten rid of our live sponsors and we're only doing our own company because we want to build stuff. So go to castbrew.com if you want to support us and buy coffee that is mind-blowing. And I got to be honest, the Rise with Roberto Jr. is also insanely good. It's a very light roast.
I like that one. That one sold out pretty quick because it was like the first one too.
Well, it's got Roberto Jr. on it. He's a celebrity. Everybody had to get the Roberto Jr. one.
He is a celebrity.
It is still available, and the curd cups are on their way, so those should be available soon. And then we have Sleepy Joe decaf, Unwoke, and I think we're doing Mr. Bokus Pumpkin Spice Experience.
Delicious.
And then I think we're going to do an espresso roast focus with Mr. Bokus.
Yes.
That's right. Those are all ideas
He
from
has
our
face
members.
with a third eye on his
Focus
third
with
eye.
Mr. Bokus. All right, where are we at? Let's grab some more. Oh, yikes. Kay Sam says there was an underage girl between 8 and 10 years old that participated fully in the Madison naked bike ride. Madison police say no laws were broken. Happened earlier this month. Yeah, it is illegal. But the cops like it. Like, that's the thing. There are a lot of laws in the books they don't enforce. Like in Wisconsin, I'm sorry, in West Virginia, for instance, the law says any card game is illegal. Hosting a card game is illegal. Wagering on a card game is illegal. But they've decided that Pokemon is legal. And we all think about that like, oh, yay, there's Pokemon cards. And it's like, okay, well, kids put up money to enter a contest to win cash value on a game that consists of at least some chance. The law explicitly forbids that. No one's going to get arrested or charged for doing it, right? So there are laws that clearly define a thing, and like, yeah, but that one's okay. And so what's happening here is the cops are basically saying, yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Back to blue, baby. All right. Gurik Atuvu says, I just discovered Timcast. Thank you for everything. We have the same problem in France, and we don't have the free speech to talk about it. Thanks for what you're doing. You are all amazing. Be honorable. I really do appreciate it. And I was saddened to see the video where the pride marchers in France tear down the French flag. I'm like, France is cool. You know what scares me? I told the story before. I went to the Bahamas. I was on a cruise. We went to Nassau. And I get off the boat. They're like, you have X amount of hours to go and check out the city. And I'm like, this is going to be really cool. I've never been here before. And there's going to be like local fare and local experience. And what do I see? Gucci, Starbucks, Dolce & Gabbana, Hard Rock Cafe. I'm like, is this what the world will be? No. I like the idea that you go to France, you get baguette. I like the idea you get schnitzel in Germany. I like the idea you get, you go to Ireland, bangers and mash, Guinness and all that stuff. But everything's homogenizing. And everything is going to be this generic plastic corporate facade everywhere you go. And that is horrifying.
I feel like it can't sustain that. I can't imagine that can sustain.
I like
Mother
diversity.
Nature.
I like diversity. I like being able to go to another country and being like, oh, this is what they do
It's
here.
good.
It's fantastic.
But I went to Chile, South America, or Peru actually at the time, and all it was chicken and rice, white rice and chicken. I was like, "Where's
That's
the
everything,
kale? Where's
everywhere.
the green vegetables?" Like, no, more white rice, white rice. I'm like, dude, I need healthy food. I can't only do so much of the same thing. So there's that value. I'm so sick of being the devil's advocate. The other, let's just move forward together.
All right. Nathan C. says, the rainbow flag comes straight from Satan, and it's an inversion of God's promise not to destroy us. Trust me, I know these things. I'm deep. This guy made a comic of Charlie Kirk, Elon Musk, and me, and it says, we are afraid of rainbows. And I'm like, this is how you know these people don't actually watch the show, because I have consistently advocated for the flying of rainbow flags as a reclamation of God's covenant. I told Seamus, I told him, hey, why don't you put a rainbow flag behind you? He goes, I don't know, it might send the wrong message. And I'm like, would you really give up God's, a symbol of your religion to them and just, no, take it back, reclaim it, make them, look, people are like, it's a different rainbow. Theirs only has so many colors. I was joking and I said, June is American Greatness Month and all these corporations are flying the symbol of God's covenant. They're changing their profile pictures to rainbows to symbolize this is a Christian nation, right? I'm being somewhat facetious, but I'm basically saying, take the rainbow back. It was Christians to begin with. Why are you just being like, oh, I guess we won't use it anymore? Are you serious?
No, it doesn't make any sense. I like the idea of taking it back. It's just, I think it's tough because they control all the cultural institutions. It'd be one thing if you
just do it. You see how Phil was talking about how Emma comes in here and she has to disagree with whatever it is I say?
Just be that.
Yes. They put up signs saying it's okay to be white, and they called it hate speech. Yeah. And it was intentionally an innocuous statement that the trolls knew they would freak out over. So what do you think's going to happen if a bunch of right-wingers start flying rainbow flags?
Yeah,
they're going to be like, oh, no, we don't want to do that anymore.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. But this is what they do. They come on this show, and they're like, we don't actually know what you believe, Tim, at all. And I'm like, well.
I love that. Watching her say things that were just, provably false. What did you say? You called for a race war or something like that, and I was just like, when?
I was like, what?
Seriously, it was just such a weird.
That's a crazy thing to say.
Yeah,
very
really
crazy.
I'm like the mixed race guy. That's the meme.
Empty
wild.
head.
Yeah.
Completely empty head. She embarrassed the hell out of herself and did no favors for the Majority Report.
Really? I thought it was great.
Really?
I mean, I didn't love every word that came out of everybody's mouth, but I thought the show itself was awesome.
Yeah, but do you think that she did well, and did watching that make you think, I want to check out the Majority Report because those guys are onto something?
I knew her beforehand. I just know who she is from watching. So it was exactly what I expected, but better because they got along really well for 98% of the show.
Who did?
You and Emma. It was pretty genial, except for there were a few hot points, but it's pretty much let's just talk about it.
Because she would say something like, I think we should have socialized healthcare. What's your position on healthcare? I'm like, you don't know it? I was like, I'm in favor of what I would describe as universal basic healthcare. And she goes, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's like, she's like,
eat her own words.
Well, why don't you make more videos about it? And I'm like, why don't I make more videos about my random opinion
housing
on non-news?
Housing first. That was one thing she said we should talk about more is getting homeless people housing because then they get a shower. Once you get a shower, you can get a job.
And that came from somebody who's never owned a house.
Well, my friend works in San Francisco with homeless. That's a big part of what she does too.
I will tell you two things, Ian. Having worked for a large network of homeless shelter nonprofits, they don't want houses.
No, you got to get them for the people that want them. You can't just force people into them.
No, none of them want them.
There's not many that want
them. That's why they're homeless.
Some people.
Now, okay, but I won't be absolute. Maybe a small percentage really just don't want to be homeless. But in my experience, 98% of the homeless people we encountered did not want to have a house and wanted to be outside and did not want jobs and would explicitly say, I know that if I take your shelter offer, you're going to give me a curfew. And you're going to lock me in,
or you're going to drug test me. And that's the way I get. That's why I get a house. And there's nothing about it, man. You know how LA is. You can live every day, every part of the year in LA and have no problem. Especially if you're getting money from the government, you're set.
I used to go down to Skid Row and hang out.
You can't maintain these houses.
No.
this is the funny thing about people being like, housing first, just give the homeless houses. And I'm like, yo, houses don't just exist.
Yeah.
It takes an insane amount of work to maintain them. That's why you have slumlords. And we complain about slumlords because they don't maintain the property they're renting out. So a lot of people don't realize this too. It's like, in order to live off being a landlord, you probably got to own 10 properties because you do not make that much off renting out a house.
No.
You make a profit, but then you have to work. You have to make sure, like, yo, I've had a property, when we moved out of New Jersey, we rented the property, and I had a rental management company take over, and I was like, just run it, I guess. And then I ended up selling it to the people who were there. I'm like, look, man, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want people renting from me. You don't make a lot of money off it. I'm not trying to be a landlord. I just owned the house and figured somebody should live in it. And after all the problems we had, things break, we pay to fix it. I'm just like, you don't really make money off this. I was like, guys, do you want it? Buy it. Like, you're going to save money. I don't want to be a landlord. But these leftists don't understand this. They think landlords sit around and do literally nothing. Now, it's possible. You get wealthy enough where you own 100 properties. They're all being run by management companies. And you're making, at that point, if you own 100 properties, depending on where those properties are, you're probably a millionaire. Well, you're literally a millionaire owning all those properties, but you're generating $1 million. And at that point, yeah, okay, I can get it. Massive conglomeration, stuff like that. But a lot of work has to go into it. A lot of work has to be paid for it. So when people are just like, we should house homeless people, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like feed the hungry. It's
feed them what?
Yeah, exactly. And for how long? Like forever until there's 900 billion of them? Like what,
Let's grab some more super chats. Cece says the left is a theistic religion. They worship intersectionality. They just haven't named a God yet. Ergo, it's a non-theistic religion.
Demiurge.
Just as Jesus lived without sin, theirs will exist with all of their intersection of all oppressions. It is really, really amazing, to be honest, how they've created this like bizarro Christianity.
They believe that
they have original sin.
Yeah, they believe that there is at least a segment of the left that like worships like the nature and stuff like that. They're Gnostics that believe that like God is actually the devil and there's a God that's above the God of the Bible, and he was imprisoned in reality. He was broken up into shards, and he's imprisoned in reality. And so when you hear people say like there's a little piece of God in all of us, that's a heresy according to Christians. That's saying that, oh, I am, that's like a Gnostic cult belief.
That's like the Infinity Gauntlet. They shattered the gems were like shattered, and God was stored in the Infinity Gems all over the universe.
No, it's not the same thing.
It's like part of like the Gnostic cult, the Gnostic heresy. You can read up GNOSTIC.
Oh, literally.
The Gnostic heresy. So it's a real thing.
It's a real religious belief that a lot of people that people act out even though they don't realize that they believe it. Whenever you hear people say there's an end of history, that's when God realizes that he is. It's when man realizes that he is God, and then all of the conflict in the world goes away because man realizes that conflicts are just different representations of the same thing. It's a whole Gnostic religion, and most people that are on the left don't realize it, but they're acting out a religious beliefs.
Gabriel Lopez says, I was an atheist for 15 years, thought I was really smart to have it all figured out. Science explains everything. I was wrong, humbled myself, found God. Christians were right all along. I'm done with anything Alphabet Mafia related. It is not good for anyone.
That is an awesome story.
It is great. I relate to it. I don't believe Christians were right all along. I believe they're right about a lot. I think there are a lot of really smart philosophers and theologians throughout history, Christian thinkers who thought about the universe and God and morality, and they came up with extremely intelligent things. And many of these things we want to live by today. I am not a Christian, however. I think there's just smart people. However, I will say, I think watching The Passion of the Christ was very good. It gave me a political understanding of the ideas around the Passion era when all that stuff was going down. And like the human element of what the story was, not the religious element. Because all my life I've been told this religious story of what it meant from a perspective of God having a son do these things. Then I watched The Passion for the first time, and I'm like, now I understand the human element of why they did what they did to Jesus because, Satan is in the movie and there's a religious, obviously it's religious, but I thought that was really interesting to see, like, Pontius Pilate saying, if this man's innocent, but if I crucify him, then they're going to revolt, his followers revolt, but if I don't, then the people who hate him will revolt. So what do I do? And
Keep
it's like
the peace, just like the cops in New York City, man.
Exactly. The guards running in to like stop the revolt because they're angry about what Jesus was saying.
Did they portray Jesus to like having like just have not gone insane, but like just crushed by the weight of the burden? Like, does it start off where he's already in prison, or is it
the Seamus needs a beer, but
it starts off in the garden. So he's praying and not Gethsemane. Gethsemane. Yeah. And it walks through the whole passion. So it starts in the garden and it ends with him rising. In the tomb. That's like the end scene. That's the
right.
There's a sequel coming out.
Yeah, they're doing a sequel, The Resurrection.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, how are they going to do that? I hope because they say he goes to hell after he dies. His spirit goes to hell and he
saves souls,
and then he's risen. So like, if that's an action movie where he's like dressed up like Rambo and he's in hell, like slaughtering the demons and he saves people.
There is a lot of violence and brutality in that movie.
That's why I haven't watched it, man. It's such a great content topic, but I don't like gore. I just avoid it unless it's necessary.
But what I was saying to Seamus after watching it, I was like, watch that movie without knowing anything about religion, and it's the story of a guy who was teaching people and preaching love, and so the powers that be felt threatened by what he was teaching, so they had him killed. And it's like very political.
Yeah, dude, the emperor. We're lucky we don't have an emperor right now.
But anyway, my point is, in terms of the religious stuff, I can tell you, there are a lot of really good and strong and important ideas and smart thinkers, and they gave us important concepts. I always cite Blackstone's formulation, which is rooted in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's a foundation of this nation and how we became the most powerful and, in many ways, the most just. Don't get me wrong, very unjust in a lot of ways too. But I think the foundation of this country with the 4th, 5th, 6th Amendments, man, and the 2nd Amendment, come on. Just brilliant. Brilliant minds. All right, let's, the Quartering says massive announcement at 2 p.m. Central tomorrow. Glad to see Timmy back and sounding healthy, but yeah, I am shilling out because it's going to be huge. Well, I wonder what it will be, Jeremy from the Quartering. So that's 3 p.m. Eastern, right? Oh, no, wait. Yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll look out for it. Blaine says, hey, Tim, I'm a professional HVACR technician. I can fix your air conditioning. We've had we've had a company come out every month because it breaks down every week.
Yeah.
I think the issue is the building's too big. Too big of building. So the filters break and then the machine overloads and then something happens to it.
And like it's hot upstairs but cold downstairs. The heat's obviously rising.
It's cold across the hall. That's why we opened the door.
Yeah.
Because like the AC in there is nuts. The funny thing is in Carter's studio, he's directly under it.
AC.
When people turn the AC on even a little bit, his room is 50 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
We need to figure this out.
I mean, look, being in the booth when it's cool is all right.
It is
being in
nice.
the booth when you're yelling and the booth's hot. That's no fun, man.
Yep.
Yeah, better than heat.
But with the new studio, we have decentralized AC units.
Nice.
Ooh. And I got to tell you, we finally get the concrete done. And this is so someone reached out to us on our members Discord, where they're going to be, hopefully they're coming in and they're going to do the work for us. Glad to have made their acquaintance. We're like, hey, we want the concrete. It's fresh poured concrete. We need it polished and sealed. And we want it sealed, I would say like a Home Depot floor. Not slippery, but you can skate on it. And they say, okay. They used a sealant that made it sticky as sticky can be. And so we're like, yo, this was ridiculously expensive. Why did you do it wrong? And they're like, we didn't know. And it's just, this is what happens every time. You tell them, this is what I want. You got it. And they do the wrong thing. And this is what keeps happening to us across the board everywhere.
Can you override the sealant with something else?
You got to polish it again and reseal it. And they're like, oh, well, if you wanted that, we would do something else. And I'm like, okay.
First world problems, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But the problem is we're trying to launch the studio and fix all of the problems so we can run this machine better. And the first world problem, I guess, you can't get people who can do the job. This building's been 2 years in the works. 2 years.
Yeah.
Insane. And I got to tell you, with all due respect, even the company that reaches out to us, they're like, we can be ready in 3 weeks. And I'm like, it's never going to get done. Never.
Yeah,
it'll get done.
Frustrating.
And it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, maybe in a year. Even with the building we're doing for the coffee shop, it's like we go in and we say, okay, here's our preliminary plan. Then they say it's a historic building. You got to go do these permits. We do the permits. Okay, now you got to do an inspection here. We do an inspection. Okay, now you got a problem here. We have another problem here. It really does feel like they're just trying to rip money from us. And at some point, there's no point in trying to invest in West Virginia.
You know what I want to do is build a climbing wall in there. Do we have room for that?
That's part of the plan.
Banging.
Yeah, a rock climbing wall with the auto belay. Yep. All in the works. All right. Damanovich says, I'm part of UE Local 506. We are currently on strike over our contract with Wabtec in Erie, Pennsylvania. They want to be able to change our health benefits and price at any time. They also want to have a 10-year progression for any new hires to get max pay. Well, I hope you win. I'm kind of torn on union work stuff because I had negative experiences with all my unions. I was held back by them. There was no path for me as an individual under union contracts. I'd go to my boss and be like, I'm always on time. I passed the test. I do this. I want this. And they say, talk to your union rep. And I'd be like, what? They can't give me a promotion or a raise. And they'd be like, neither can I. You got a union contract. Deal with it. I'm like, I quit. I don't want to work here. There's no movement. And it was like,
do you guys
the idea that the average person is protected is great, but then the ambition is curtailed.
Have union experience?
Not in a union, but I've dealt with working with unions, and I find them to be difficult, and that's putting it mildly.
Was there a musician union?
No, it's usually like loaders and stuff like that. Specifically in New York City, dealing with the unions at places like the Nokia Theater or whatever. If you walk out on, for some reason, if you're in a band and you walk out on the stage to get something from like the back line or whatever, the union guys will yell at you.
Dude.
You can't push if you want to bring something to the stage from the truck. Yeah. You can't push it your own crate. The union people are hindered progress massively.
We were getting a venue, and I'll keep it very vague, and we had security issues. Nope, union has to go through them. We show up, and I'm like, I want to check out the stage before the show. Nope, union, and I'm like, I'm putting on a show. We got 1,000 people come. I need to come on stage. Nope. Yep. So we went around into the seats, into the actual room, and then just jumped up onto the stage
to check it out. There for that.
And then they yelled at us. Yeah. And then they yelled at us and started screaming at us. How dare you? What do you think you're doing? And I'm like, I paid money. I need to know what the stage looks like and what our plan is. Nope.
So you need to scout it for safety too. You need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to survey the stage.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends if you really do like it, because it really does help. Word of mouth is the most powerful way to help podcasts grow. Head over to timcast.com, become a member, because the members only uncensored portion is starting in a few minutes, and it's going to be gross and spicy, but you don't want to miss it. So again, timcast.com. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. Follow Timcast News at Timcast News on Twitter, because boy, we had this viral clip went crazy. And Elad Eliyahu, who's our reporter on the ground, he's covering these stories. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Terry, do you want to shout anything out?
No, just thanks so much for having me on, guys. You can find out more about my group, American Principles Project, at AmericanPrinciplesProject.org.
Right on.
I am Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains. The band is All That Remains. What is it? ATRHQ on Twitter. I'm Phil That Remains on Twitter. You can find All That Remains on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. I want to give a quick shout out to the guys at TNVC for the hookup on the night vision. They're super cool.
Nice. Have you looked at comets yet?
No.
Satellites?
Awesome.
No, not yet. I haven't gone to look for satellites yet.
You don't need to look for them.
Just
when you look up, you just see it all.
Yeah.
Wild. Crazy.
I'm Ian Crossland. Very happy to see you guys keep doing your best. And I also have a final super chat from Joe Schilling. Ask Terry what his favorite pizza place is.
St. Giuseppe's Heavenly Pizza in Moline, Comanche, and Coal Valley, Illinois.
Oh.
It's my family pizza place. That's my
Perfect.
brother Joe.
Oh, right.
So, hey, Joe, you got a shout out. Congratulations.
You guys, it's in Moline, huh?
Yeah.
So you guys you do square cut?
Strip cut. Yeah, the rectangles. Yeah.
Strip cut. Yep.
It's great.
I tell people in Chicago, it's not deep dish. That's
No.
tourist pizza.
That's right.
And it's the square cut.
With
It's
little
called
basil.
Quad City style pizza.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
It's good. It's got sausage that's spicy. It's ground up. It's underneath the cheese. It's like steamed. It's malt barley crust. It's phenomenal.
Really?
Nice.
We got to
good
get some.
stuff.
Yeah, that's yes.
Can they freeze it and overnight it?
Yes, they can.
Let's order some right now.
I'll get you guys hooked up.
Let's do it.
Beautiful. All right, guys. See you later. See you tomorrow.
And I am Serge.com. Excited for this after show because it's Elad's work, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, we're not going to
Another
see you
shout out.
tomorrow. We're going to see you in a few minutes over at Timcast.com.
Yeah, just a little bit. We'll see you soon, guys.
All right, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you over there.